reporting for duty. Am I audible?
I'll allow a few minutes for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you very much. You may
Recording
take
in
your seats.
progress.
Honorable delegates, I'd like to inform the House that I will now allow an opportunity for delegates to give notices of motion. But before that, I would like to remind delegates that the rules, in particular, sub-rules 21, 22, and 23 of Rule 103 will apply. And notices of motion, we have 20 minutes for the notices of motion. And we have a list of members who have indicated that they would like to produce notices of motion. Could I have the list, please?
Chair. Deputy Chair,
Yes, thank you.
can I check?
Yes, go ahead.
Is it what you communicate as KZN that when you come to the house, you call each other and say, we're wearing gray today? Because I see the entire delegation of KZN is in gray suits today.
Thank you, Honorable Modise, for bringing that to my attention. Honorable colleagues, the first notice of motion I have here, I have the name of Honorable Nodada.
Honorable Deputy Chair, I hereby give notice that in the next sitting of the Council, I shall move on behalf of the African National Congress that the Council debates South Africa's readiness for disasters and the need to strengthen the readiness of provinces and municipalities for disasters. Acknowledges that South Africa is facing increasing levels of disaster risk that has been exposed to a wide range of weather hazards, including drought, fire, tropical cyclones, and severe weather hazards that can trigger widespread hardship and devastation. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The next motion is from the Honorable Gericke.
Thank you, Chairperson. I, Virgil Gericke, rise on behalf of the EFF that Council in its next sitting debates the persistent failure to combat the alarmingly high crime rates in the country and the surge in kidnapping and extortion syndicates. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gericke. The next motion is from the Honorable Nkinga.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
you're audible. We see you also. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters that Council in its next sitting debates the ongoing distortion of African history in our educational curricula, such as textbooks, public monuments, and museums, as African history has for too long been presented through colonial lenses, and this distorts the truth about our struggle for liberation and downplays contributions of African leaders and the significance of their cultural practices. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkinga. The next motion is from the Honorable Nzimande.
No, thanks, Chair, and good afternoon. I rise on behalf of MK Party and the people of South Africa to move without notice that this House note with deep concern our country's performance on the critical health outcomes involving infant mortality rate. Highlights for 2024, infant mortality rate is estimated at 23.127 deaths per 1,000 lives birth. Recognizing that most Sahara regional countries perform reasonably poor against this health outcome and or indicator, calls for attention for cooperative strategies to improve performance on the health outcomes in issue. Urges the government, I don't know whether it's this government or the government is coming, urges the government to lead in finding solutions for reduction of infant mortality rate, demand regional facilitated dialogue to deal, amongst others, health issues, including crucial health outcomes challenges. We affirm that we need to strengthen the intergovernmental relations to deal with this sketch. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
I'm rising on a point of order. Was that a motion with notice or a motion without notice?
Motion with notice. All right, can we move on to the next motion? And that is from the Honourable van den Berg.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby give notice that on the next sitting of the House, I shall move on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus that the House debate the true intention and the intended outcome of the ever-growing call for consequence management within the three spheres of government. Given that the term consequence management is not clearly defined, what could be expected as a possible result, and when must management be replaced by enforcement? And if so, can consequence be enforced in the South African political environment? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable van den Berg. The next motion is from the Honourable Noble.
Thank you, Chair. I move that in the next sitting, the House debates the issue of addressing education challenges. I give notice of motion on behalf of the MK Party to request the Minister of Basic Education to address school infrastructure, backlogs, and the resource shortages, particularly in rural areas. This motion seeks to ensure quality education for all. Regarding specific resolutions, infrastructure development, develop a plan to address school infrastructure backlogs, resource allocation, to allocate resources to provide quality educational materials and digital tools, and teaching training, provide training to teachers to effectively utilize resources and technology. So move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We now go on to the last one, and that is from the Honourable Molokome.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, and good afternoon to honourable members in the House and on the platform. Chair, I hereby give notice that in the next sitting of the Council, I shall move on behalf of the African National Congress that the Council debate the professionalization of local government as mechanism to improve the capacity of local government institutions and delivery of quality services to communities. 2, acknowledges that despite several interventions to strengthen the capacity of municipalities and the establishment of an interministerial committees to tackle underperforming and prioritize interventions to address municipal debts, as well as payment to water boards and ESCOM. South Africa is still faced with the sad reality of a decline in municipal governance, with only 37 of the country's 257 municipalities receiving clean audits in the 2022 to 2023 financial year. I so move, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to motions. Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, for the opportunity. I'm so sorry to bombard you with this issue. I don't know if the list was updated, but my name was sent through as well.
Was that for a motion with notice or without notice?
Notice of motion.
With notice?
Yes.
Don't have your name here. All right, but go ahead. I'll allow it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chairperson. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to call for an urgent investigation into the grave misconduct and abuse suffered by Janine Harbai at Oppenheimer Partners Africa Advisors, a company owned by Jonathan Oppenheimer. Janine experienced severe sexual harassment, was bullied and assaulted. She was also subjected to death threats and racial abuse while employed at the company. On June 8, 2020, Janine was unlawfully terminated during the COVID-19 lockdown, immediately following her abuse and complaint, which was never investigated. Further, unauthorized credit checks were conducted and fraudulent retrenchment for operational needs agreement was fabricated. Legal malpractice was compounded by Anand Roy Ramdor, who extorted 75% of Janine's settlement, falsely posing as an attorney. Despite charges being filed against Jonathan Oppenheimer and his directors, the Hawks have yet to act. We urge Parliament to investigate these serious allegations, address the failures of the Labour Court and regulatory bodies, and ensure that justice is served for Janine Haribaya. I so move.
Point of order.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Your point of order, sir.
Rise and Rule 94, Honourable Chair. A notice of motion in the form of a draft resolution must deal with a subject within the competence of this council. And I don't see how casting aspersions on somebody is within the competence of this council.
Honourable Member, if I heard the motion correctly, she was calling for an investigation.
Please.
No, she was calling for the police to investigate. All right, let us move on with the. We will get the table to investigate that, and we will produce a report. Thank you. We'll now move on to motions without notice. I have a list here, and we will start with the Chief Whip, Honourable Moemang.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Greetings to yourselves and my fellow colleagues in this August House and the Minister. I hereby move on behalf of the Glorious Movement, the African National Congress, that this council knows with utmost concern the rising of living and its impact of household, particularly the vulnerable, the working class and the poor. Number two, for this council to note without notice that around 40% of adults in South Africa are reportedly resorting to borrowing money to buy food, while 2 out of 5 individuals have gone without electricity in the past 12 months, despite the provision of free basic electricity given by the ANC-led government. Number three, that the council knows that and acknowledges that according to Finmark's Trust listed study, the FinScope Consumer South Africa 2023, the living expenses account for 85.3% of the average South African's monthly income, which is a clear indication of the pressure that is facing many families across South Africa. Number four, that the council further knows that according to FinScope study, it is estimated that groceries make up 30.4% of the expenses, energy 11.5% of the expenses, transportation.
Honourable Chief Whip, your time has expired.
Therefore, calls on government and provinces to strengthen measures to support the vulnerable and the poor.
Thank you,
Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. I don't want members to accuse you of breaking your own rules. We'll move on to the next Honourable Member, and that's Honourable Ngumalo.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson.
Sorry, Honourable Member. Could I ask if the House accepts the first motion by Honourable Moemang?
Agreed.
Agreed, thank you. Honourable Ngumalo, please continue.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And I hereby move without notice that the council note the utmost concern and apprehensive the persisting rogue taxi patrollers who are intimidating, impounding of cars and preventing motorists for giving lift to people along the N4 in the Mpumalanga province. It's number one. Number two, Honorable Chair, acknowledge that while hitchhiking can be very dangerous and expose both the hitchhikers and drivers to criminal element, the intimidation of motorists is not only intolerable, but illegally so. And on the last one, I said, let's take this opportunity to call on the various taxi associations, the MEC for Transport and Police, as well as the police to clamp down on the intimidation and impounding of people's car by taxi patrollers. I so move, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngumalo. The next motion will be from the Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Sorry again. Could we ask the House if they accept that motion? Agreed. Thank you, Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that Council note number 1, that today marks the World Tsunami Awareness Day, the 5th of November, which is the day that was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015 to increase awareness about dangers of tsunami and encourage preparations in case of a natural disaster strikes. Number 2, further note that World Tsunami Awareness Day, 5 November, is also intended to raise awareness and community education about the need to join efforts to mitigation and devastating impacts of tsunami and climate change. And number 3, to acknowledge that the biggest threat of tsunami are rising areas, rising sea levels and seismic sea waves that are aggravated by tornadoes, hurricanes, floodings, drought, and earthquake as a result of climate change. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Is there any objection to the motion? No objection. We now move on to the next one. That's the motion from the Honorable Billy.
Chairperson, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes that following the May 2024 provincial elections in KwaZulu-Natal, there was not a single political party that received an outright majority. Further notes that in the absence of an outright majority winner, a government of provincial unity comprised of various political parties was successfully formed. Also notes that since the formation of the GPU, there have been numerous government successes witnessed in KZN. Notes in particular Public Works MEC Martin Meyer's commitment to root out the rampant corruption in his department by ensuring that contracts are awarded fairly and to competent companies and or contractors, putting an end to the siege of construction mafias. Further notes that Finance MEC Francois Rogers' commitment to cutting the fat in government spending and implementing a raft of cost-cutting measures. Takes this opportunity to commend and congratulate the parties involved in making the KZN GPU a success, in particular, the Democratic Alliance, the ANC, the IFP, and the NFP. And further takes this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate the complexities that accompanies coalition government and commends those who follow, those who remain committed to playing an active role in ensuring a stable government in KwaZulu-Natal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Honorable Farmer, you're objecting?
EA is also a GNU partner.
Are you objecting to the motion, Honorable Farmer? I don't take that as an objection. The motion is carried. The next motion is from the Honorable Phala. Honorable Phala, are you on the platform?
Yes, can you proceed?
Yes, please proceed.
No, proceed. We don't have the motion.
Oh, you don't have a motion. All right. Thank you. We move on to the next one. The Honorable Pesa? Your motion?
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters that council notes the serious allegations of corruption and misuse of municipal resources made against senior officials in Sakisizwe municipality as revealed in the ongoing fuel gate scandal. Further note that corruption in local government is an issue of grave concern which affects the future of stability and prosperity of the country. Acknowledge that Sakisizwe's speaker has been implicated in unlawful use of a municipal fuel card for personal gain, undermining public trust and accountability. Further acknowledges the questionable fuel transaction made by the mayor that indicate potential fraud, including a staggering mileage discrepancy over a short period of time. Recognize the role of executive committee member in the irregular use of a corporate vehicle, raising concerns about the transparency of the operations. Further recognize that corruption not only violates public trust, but also exacerbates the inadequate provision of basic services, including water and sanitation, which our communities have desperately called for. The economic freedom fighters call for the immediate investigation by the Special Investigation Unit to hold those—
Your Honourable Member, your time has expired.
And further demand the Municipal Public Accounts Committee to operate transparently and fulfill—
Thank you, Honourable Member.
—to uphold the law and serve the interest of the community. I so move.
Honourable members, you must please note your time and stick to your time. It's 1.5 minutes per motion. Is there any objection to the motion that was just read? No objection. We move on to the next one, and the next motion is from the Honourable Medupe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the House notes that a police constable in the Northwest shot his girlfriend and her male friends dead before turning the gun on himself on Saturday morning. Furthermore, note that incident took place at the house party in Zone 2, Itsoseng in Lake Timberg, and fourth victim was also shot and seriously injured. Also note that it is alleged that the friends were having a party when Constable Lesego Phefo took out a firearm and started shooting. Therefore, I send our heartfelt condolences to the families of the deceased, and I wish the injured speedy recovery. I so move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? No. Thank you. We then move on to the Honourable Pala. I believe you found your motion now.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move with notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the House knows with concern the 20% year-on-year increase in the number of police officers killed in South Africa, with 111 murdered in 2023-2024 financial year. Further note that according to SAP's annual report, there was a 20.6% increase in the 92 members that were killed in the previous year. Also note that murders included both off-duty and on-duty police officers, and it's the highest recorded over the last 5 years. Therefore, we call on the government to do everything legally possible to defend the lives of men and women in blue. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any objection to that motion? No. Move on to the next one, and that's the Honourable Briet.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus that this House notes that on 5 November 2024, AfriForum will be hosting a national protest against the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. notes that more than 36 organizations representing over 2 million citizens will be in attendance, as well as individual citizens. Further notes that this exclusionary act stands in stark contrast with the hard-won rights that so many South Africans gave their lives for, and denies a significant portion of the South African population their fundamental right to receive education in their mother tongue. Recognizes that all children have a right to schooling in their mother tongue, and wishes them strength, safety, and success in their peaceful protest. I so move.
Honorable Breed, is there any objection to that motion? Honorable Chief Whip, are you objecting?
Objection, Chair.
All right, so that motion falls away. I see another hand, Honorable Pongos.
Please note the objection of the EFF chairperson.
Well, it has been objected to. Thank you. We move to the next one, the Honorable Nkosi Nkonyana.
Chairperson, honorable members, honorable minister, I rise on behalf of the People's Movement, the African National Congress, to move that the House notes with concern the heavy rains and strong winds that have damaged infrastructure in Pietermaritzburg in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Further note that the roof of the administration building at the Ashdown Primary School in Edendale has been blown off and the school has been flooded. Noting further that the Edendale Hospital, which is located in the same vicinity, has been reported to have been affected. Noting further that the South African Weather Services has issued yellow level 4 warnings for parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape provinces. Therefore, call on the administrations of both provinces to make the necessary preparations to protect the lives and infrastructure of their provinces. I so move, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Is there any objection to the motion? No objection. We move on to the next motion, and that's from the Honorable Kaunda.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the House notes with appreciation that Durban Inkosi Albert Luthuli International Convention Center has once again won South Africa's best convention center at the 2024 meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibition, which is Miss Awards for the 18th time. Further note, the Durban ICC beat other South African nominees that included the Cape Town International Convention Center, CSIR International Convention Center in Pretoria, and Sentin Convention Center. Also note that CEO of Durban ICC, Ms. Lindiwe Kharibe, received the award on behalf of Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, and South Africa at a red carpet World Smith Awards Gala ceremony held in Vietnam on Wednesday. Therefore, congratulates the management and the staff at the Durban ICC, including the board, eThekwini Municipality and KZN Provincial Government on a job well done. I so move, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Is there any objection to that motion? If you're objecting, please put your mic on and object.
I'm objecting.
Thank you. So we will proceed, and that motion will become a motion with notice. Thank you. The next motion is from the Honorable Makasini.
Right. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to congratulate Ringo Madlingos for the lifetime for winning a summer award, a songwriter and a producer. Mr. Madlingos is the Lifetime Achievement Award in that past week at Galaga Convention Center in Midrand. Further notes that the Lifetime Achievement Award is a prestigious award that honor individuals who have dedicated their time as recording artists or producers that made a valuable contribution towards the development and upliftment of advancement of the music industry. Also acknowledge that Ringo Madlingos is a true icon that has captivated audience worldwide for the decade, with 15 albums such as the hit of Buyisa, Sondela, nakum ekuseni into yami yakho kumvuma kamnandi, as well as collaboration with the icons such as Miriam Makeba and UB40. Further acknowledged Ringo Madlikos broke his record in the music since 1986 with a group called Peto, to the shouldered road to fame in 1986. And later he had the solo album in 1996 of Fugani. So we, as an economic freedom fighter, we congratulate Ringo Madlingos as his award. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to that motion? None. So we proceed to the next motion, and that's from the Honorable Mabilo.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the council notes with concern the bullying behavior of taxi association patrollers who stop motorists from giving people lifts. 2, also note with disappointment that this behavior is endorsed by the taxi umbrella Santiago, who are supposed to know better that this is illegal. 3, further note that the illegal practice is happening across all provinces. 4, call on law enforcement agencies to nip this in the bud before it gets out of control. I so move. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mobilo. Is there any objection to that motion? None. We move on to the next motion. That's from the Honorable Dlamini.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that the House note that on the 31st of October, President Cyril Ramaphosa assented to the Upstream Petroleum Resources Development Bill. Also note that the Act seeks to accelerate petroleum exploration and development with participation by Black South Africans as part of the nation's social and economic advancement. Further note, the House noted that the legislation acknowledges that South Africans' petroleum resources belong to the nation and that the state is the custodian of these non-renewable natural resources without which must contribute to South African social economic and development. We further calls to the Department of Petroleum Resources to monitor the implementation of this important legislation. I so move, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Is there any objection to that motion? We move on to the next motion, and that's from the Honorable Mananiso.
And I'll take that one, Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the Mighty African National Congress that the House, 1, note that on November 1st, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development took a very important step against child maintenance defaulters. 2, also note that the department signed memorandum of understanding on the maintenance online listing of defaulters with Social Justice Foundation and the Consumer Profile Bureau. 3, further note that this ceremony was addressed by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. And 4, applaud the department for entering into this crucial partnership to enforce the right of children to be maintained by both parents, as exposed by the Maintenance Act. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to that motion? Thank you. It's accepted. We move on to the next motion by the Honorable Nuwe.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the House notes with concern that the police have arrested 565 illegal miners at a disused mine in Orkney in Northwest over the past weekend. Further, note that the illegal miners were apprehended by police when they resurfaced after SAPS and the SANDF blocked the communities in and around the abandoned mining shafts from supplying the illegal miners with food and water. Therefore, call on SAPS and SANDF to intensify the fight against illegal mining through Operation Vala Umgodi and call on the communities in and around the abandoned mines to work with the police and support them in the fight against illegal mining and the other crimes that comes with it. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Noe. Is there any objection to that motion? No. And the last motion without notice is from the Honorable Mokwele.
No, thanks very much, Chair, and greetings to everyone. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the gigantic movement, the African National Congress, that the House notes the Limpopo Executive Council convened on the 30th October 2024 to address the alarming surge of food poisoning incident reported across schools in the province. And Chair, I also want the House to know that the commitment to ensuring the health and safety of our learners, the Executive Council has resolved to implement a series of urgent measures aimed at tackling this crisis effectively. In particular, Chair, including to stop the sale even in front of the school, in all schools up until the end of the examination. Chair, I also want the House to note that this measure includes the establishment of the Joint Operating Committee, bringing together various stakeholders in the province to devise and unify strategy in response to the matter, vendor accountability. A ban will be imposed on the sale of attacks from brands identified to contain foreign objects or lacking expiry dates and more. And lastly, Chair, I want to congratulate the provincial government of Limpopo, led by Honorable Dr. Pupiramatua, for not wasting time in addressing this matter. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mokwele. Is there any objection to that motion? Honorable colleagues, I saw that there were some hands that were raised earlier, but please keep in mind that we have just 20 minutes for motions, and we have just gone beyond 20 minutes. So I will use my discretion and I will allow a few hands. And if I find that it's going beyond that time, then I will have to stop and I will expect your understanding on it. All right, so I'll start with Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you very much for that, Honourable Deputy Chair. I rise on behalf of the Democratic Alliance and move without notice that this House notes with pride a new and upcoming swimming superstar, Peter Coetzee, who dominated all backstroke events during the Swimming World Cup events in China and Korea this past weekend, winning 5 of 6 possible gold medals. Further notes that out of a possible 6 medals in the 3 backstroke events, namely the 50, the 100, and the 200 meter, Mr. Coetzee won 5, while in Shanghai he finished 20th of a second behind Isaac Cooper of Australia in the 50 meter event to finally take the silver medal. Further notes that a few days later in Incheon, Korea, he took the spoils by surprisingly beating Isaac Cooper, who is a specialist in the 50 meter event. Recognizes that Mr. Coetzee set a new African record in China in the 100 meter backstroke event with a winning time of 49.35 seconds, which is the fastest in the world, and extends its congratulations to Mr. Coetzee and wish him well for all his future events. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chair.
Thank you. Is there any objection to that motion? No, then we go on to the Honourable Godsell.
Thank you, Chair. I rise on behalf of the DA and move without notice that the House 1 notes the tragic and brutal mass shootings in Mumra, Western Cape on Wednesday, 23 October, and in Bishop Lavers in the Western Cape on Thursday, 24 October. 2, further notes the fatal shooting of 15-year-old Dahino Bester in Saxon Sea, Atlantis on Saturday as a result of gang activity. 3, extends its heartfelt condolences to the families and loved ones of those who died in these heinous crimes. 4, notes further that the recent murder of Mr. Mark Liffman has the potential to trigger violence for both retribution as well as for battles for dominance. 5, urges the South African Police Service to ensure a heightened presence and strengthened crime intelligence operation during this potentially volatile time. 6, commends the immediate action taken by the Western Cape Minister of Community Safety to support the South African Police Service by bringing the Leap Reaction Unit to these areas. 7, calls on the South African Police Services to work with the community to ensure that these perpetrators are arrested and brought to book. 8, further calls on the Western Cape Provincial Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Thembisile Patakile, to urgently address the escalating gang-related crimes in these areas. 9, commends the extent to which gang activities are holding these communities and other communities in the province at ransom. And 10, urges communities to reject gangsterism and the gangster lifestyle. I so move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection. We move on to the next one, and that's from the Honorable Adriansa.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House, 1, expresses its condolences at the passing of distinguished scholar and beloved educator, Professor Hans du Plessis. 2, remembers that Professor du Plessis was a renowned lecturer at the Northwest University and acclaimed South African author. 3, recognizes Professor du Plessis' immense contributions to the academic community and more specifically to his study and preservation of the Griqua Psalms, which have left an indelible mark on our cultural heritage. It recognizes further Professor du Plessis' dedication to the exploration of this unique facet of South Africa's history, not only enriching our understanding of the Griqua tradition, but also inspiring countless students and scholars alike. And number 5, extends its heartfelt condolences to Professor du Plessis' friends and family at his passing. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Is there any objection to that motion? There's none. We now move on to the last one from Honourable Pinar.
Thank you, Chairperson. I rise on behalf of the Democratic Alliance and move without notice that this House notes and in the strongest terms condemn the alleged rape of 2 minors in the Tambo village in Delton, Limpopo. 2, commends the community of Tambo village for assisting the South African Police Services in apprehending the suspect, who is currently behind bars. Number 3, condemns the violent acts against children in the most severe manner. 4, expresses its deepest condolences to the victims and their families. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to that motion? If there isn't, that brings us to the end of motions with notice and motions without notice. Honourable colleagues, we now shall move on and proceed with the subject for debate, which is printed on your order paper, and the topic is revitalizing of the clothing and textile industries to unlock the economic potential of the townships and rural economies to create jobs, reduce inequality, and empower local communities. Honourable colleagues, I take this opportunity to welcome the Honourable Minister, Honourable Ndabeni Abrahams, to the NCOP. Honourable Minister, I'm sure you enjoy being in this House, and we welcome you and look forward to your engagement with our honourable members. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll now move on with the speakers list, and I'll call upon the Honourable Modise, who is the mover of this topic. Honourable Modise, you have 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes, Honourable Modise. You have 20 minutes to introduce your motion, but if you spare a few minutes, I will allow it at the end. Thank you.
The Deputy Chair of the National Council of Provinces, the forever available Minister Ndabeni Abrams, Honorable Deputy Minister Whitfield, House Chairpersons Hadebe and Ryder, our own double R, Honorable members of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable MEC Maile, Masilela and Kekana, people of South Africa. Deputy Chair, in her early 20s, armed with only a dream, passion, love, energy, dedication, and commitment, and believe that clothing can be used to upskill, create employment, and also be a successful business. She went out of her way to start her own company known as the House of Sarah. Today, her company has been in existence for 24 years, and her passion is as green as it was then. Her energy is still visible. Love, dedication, and commitment still unquenched. The House of Sarah is found at number 26 Carbon Street, Steel Park in the Val. And Deputy Chair, it is against this background that I want to dedicate today's debate to the House of Sarah and its owner, Ms. Sarah Manyokolo-Notsi. The House of Sarah also mentors Vaal University of Technology graduates. This chair proves that the textile industry is a global market that involves the production, distribution, and development of fabrics and other items made from yarn, threads, or fibers. The industry is responsible for converting raw materials into finished products. The textile industry is important because it provides comfort and essential needs for survival. The industry is diverse and includes a variety of processes such as spinning, weaving, dyeing, knitting, bonding, embroidery, felting, and tufting. This industry has grown due to inventions such as flying shuttle, spinning jenny, power loom, cotton green, and the jacquard loom. These inventions allowed for the mass production of fabrics, moving the industry from the household to factories. It's also a significant part of South African economy. It is the country's 11th largest manufacturer of goods export and makes up around 14% of manufacturing employment. South African government has invested over 5 billion in the textile industry to help it compete globally. As we enter our fourth decade of democracy, immediately after 1994, South Africa was put under extreme pressure to conform and align with international economic trade policies consciously managed by the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization. Some of these policies include trade liberalization, or rather the lifting of certain trade restrictions, which brought increased integration of the South African economy with the global economy, but created new vulnerabilities by opening South African economy to the external factors with potential negative, inclusive, and industrial development consequences. Of course, the white capitalist class became an active force in lobbying the democratic government to immediately liberalize trade, as the capitalist class needed to export these large amounts of capital and assets away from the intrusive hand of a future black majority government. Despite some of the relative success, the trade has generally not delivered the desired outcome. Instead, it has created multiple challenges for the clothing and textile industries, such as the influx of cheap clothing and textile, which started increasing after 1994 and intensified in the 20s from China, Eswatini, and Madagascar. In my engagement with Mr. Richard Chaka, an employee of Mfuleni local municipality, he was more radical, as he said to me, and I quote, "It was in November of 1884 to February 1885 in Berlin. A group of those who were jealous about Africa, its way of life, and how Africans sustain their lives in many forms, said and concluded that Africans must be divided according to their greed and appetite for ownership. It is this diabolic conference which took away how Africans thought textiles should just make a living and keep Africans skillful, but also venerate their culture and belief through what they produce. Historically, the textile industry has been a significant source of employment in many communities. However, systematic challenges, which included dispossession and apartheid, have often marginalized Black entrepreneurs, especially in township and rural communities. Recognizing his history is crucial in understanding the need of revitalization of this sector, close quote. More crucially, Deputy Chair, Firms in the South African clothing and textile industry have been struggling to build their productive capabilities to compete aggressively with global production leaders such as China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam, which have established supply chain and global trade relations. This weakening industrial base of the clothing and textile industries is just one classic example of South Africa premature deindustrialization. Three factors illustrate the premature of this in the industry. Firstly, as a share of manufacturing value added, the clothing industry has regressed from 5% in 1994 to around 3% in 2019, further declined to around 2% in 2022. Secondly, a share of GDP, the clothing and textile industry declined from 0.59% in 1994 to 0.25% in 2019, with a further decline of 0.22% at the end of 2022. Finally, as a share of total employment in the manufacturing sector, the clothing and textile industry regressed from 12% to 11% from 2010 to 2022 period. Worse, this decline in employment opportunities in the clothing and textile industry mostly affects Black employees, as they constitute approximately 80% of the industry workforce, whose share of remuneration has declined over the past 3 years. Thulani Ndlovu, who is a member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the chairperson of Infrastructure Development and Property Management, says to me during our discussion on this topic at his place of residence, and I quote, "The clothing and textile industry is part of our rich history and heritage as a people. Our identity is expressed through clothing, textile trends, and fashion holistically. All of us in this house grew up knowing a woman who was a dressmaker in the community. Our mothers, our grannies, and even our wives uses the service of these community dressmakers and tailors. These are important people because they made custom clothes affordable. This value of their talents must be preserved, supported, and protected. When we read history, we discover that Alexandra and Sophia Town had the best fashion trends in the mid-40s, 50s, and the late 60s, because the best tailors, designers, and dressmakers were produced in these two townships of Gauteng. The story of Amaxhosa by Laduma, Rich Mnisi, Tsepo Jeans are true statements of the potential of township and rural textile industry development. The ANC-led government has created possibilities for Black people to become meaningful role players in the textile and clothing industry. For example, Laduma's Maxhosa came from humble beginnings to stores in New York and other affluent parts of the world. Jobs are created in this process. Inequalities are defeated through the growth of tailors and dressmakers, and indeed local communities are also empowered, close quote. Chair, similar to Japan, South Korea, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, industrialization of clothing and textile industry figures prominently on the ANC-led Government of National Development Plan agenda. Importantly, industrialization of clothing and textile industry features in the retail, clothing, textile, food, leather, and master plan, and the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather growth program, which were implemented by the ANC-led government and are recently being accelerated. Chair, when I come back, because I want to save these minutes, when I come back, I will tell you what Mr. Thabo Mokoena and Mr. Kgosi Sehloho will have said to me around this sensitive issue. For now, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Modise. I noted that you have saved 10 minutes.
Sweatshops in China.
Honorable members, it's now my pleasure to call upon the Honorable Minister to please come to the podium. Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister has 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, House Chairperson. Honorable members, Deputy Minister Whitfield, Mrs. on the platform, Mrs. Maile Masilela and Gekana, senior officials of our government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, November is a significant month, recognized globally as the Entrepreneurship Month. It is dedicated to celebrating the entrepreneurs and innovators who are vital to economies around the world. The clothing and textile industry plays a crucial role within the small enterprise ecosystem that we lead. We all know the significant role that the sector played in the struggle of the working class to fight for a living wage and safe working conditions, not only in our country, but worldwide. In South Africa, the industry was an emblem of unity for all races in their struggle for a living wage. We must remember the brave struggles of the clothing and textile workers in the 1970s and 1980s, and the impetus this gave the struggle against apartheid. Chairperson, this industry is dear to my heart because it has always been the industry that kept African identity and culture alive. The African fabrics and different styles of clothing in our diverse African cultures were indeed a symbol of pride of many of us during the struggle against apartheid. They became a symbol of rebellion, a sign of self-preservation of African identity. Today, this industry remains one of the pivotal symbols of African creativity, ingenuity, and resilience. Today, Chairperson, when I wear my Mpondo outfit, I wear it with pride, alive to the fact that it represents the struggles and the victories of my people over many generations. As we face the new struggles of today, we remember the day when Tata and Mama Mandela walked triumphantly into court in 1968. And as uncertain and unpleasant as the day was for the struggle for African liberation, their appearance in the Xhosa regalia gave many people hope that victory was certain. Lastly, Chairperson and members, this industry remains close to my heart because it is one of the few industries that has very high levels of women participation. Again, during apartheid, struggles in this sector became part of a broader struggle for women's emancipation. Today, fashion and clothing small enterprises have high levels of women ownership, and women workers still dominate the factory floors. As we talk about building an inclusive economy, we can therefore not shy away to say there's a need to inject many interventions in this sector that is women dominated on ownership, not just as workers. Chairperson, I'm putting above as a precursor to my argument on why it is important for us to save and grow this industry. This is a very timely and relevant debate as we discuss how to increase the contribution of the clothing and textile sector to national output and employment. But more than that, how can a reimagined clothing and textile sector contribute to transforming the economy by unlocking opportunities for small enterprises in our marginalized and underserved areas? The previous speaker has gotten into details in terms of where the stats put us. And honorable members, this sector has benefited from several industry policy interventions as articulated earlier, from the days of the National Industrial Policy Framework and the Industrial Policy Action Plan to the current reimagined industrial strategy and the Clothing, Textile, Leather and Footwear Master Plan. The hemorrhaging of jobs that characterized the clothing and textile sector in the 1990s as South Africa reduced tariffs and opened to foreign competition has been stabilized, but we are nowhere near realizing our potential as the country. The sector remains quite concentrated with 85% of the market controlled by 20 largest companies. What we have not yet unlocked is the potential of the sector to absorb small enterprises, specifically from underserved areas. However, there is much to be hopeful about. The sector has a presence throughout the country, whether you go to eThekwini, whether you go to Mthatha, whether you go to Cape Town, anywhere in this country, the sector has presence. This industry, like elsewhere in the world, is dominated by small enterprises, specifically in the cut, make, and trim, which is popularly known as the CMT, and the fashion wear industry. This industry, unlike the heavy textile manufacturing industry, has relatively low barriers to entry due to low overhead costs and the ability to manufacture clothes at home or at a local facility. According to SAS, most of the 4,500 manufacturers in this sector that pay taxes are micro businesses. But how many of those come from townships and rural areas? Me and you here, we know that South Africa has talent. Our townships have the most creative fashionistas, but the question is how many of them are producing for commercial retail markets, and how do we deepen the value chain? The honorable member highlighted some of the well-known designers from our country. Many of our textile and fibers have backward linkages into the rural economy, be it wool and mohair, cotton, or the major industrial crops of the future like hemp. There are huge opportunities for small enterprises across the value chain, from the farm to the factory, from the factory to the retail outlet. And this is where our department complements and supports the work done by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition in implementing its master plan. Now, to really unlock the potential of the sector and the role of small enterprises, we are busy as government with 4 sets of strategic actions that I would call upon all the members here to support if you are serious about supporting the sector in order to create jobs and be able to transform the economy that we're talking about. The first thing, working with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and SARS, we have to cut down on cheap imports through tariffs, including on e-commerce platforms, as well as clamping down on the entry of fake and illicit imports entering the country. Limiting these illicit cheap imports is critical to open the local market for small enterprises, particularly those from our townships and rural areas. We are also strengthening the capacity of the state through coordination on enforcement of regulations and bylaws to crack down on illicit business. Working together with organizations against counterfeit goods, we will soon announce a partnership with a campaign to fight the proliferation of counterfeit goods in our country. This partnership will also explore legal instruments that can be introduced to make sure that our brands of pride, such as Maxhosa and many others, are protected against counterfeit. Secondly, honorable members, we must localize, and this starts with us as consumers. I'm not going to ask how many of you seated here that are wearing locally designed and locally produced clothes. We're here to represent the people of South Africa, but we are too shy to wear the brands they make. Our major retailers must localize to open supply chain opportunities for local manufacturers, as well as small clothing and fashion wear producers. This is a clear objective of the master plan, which we must see implemented. We know that others are against this master plan, but I want to plead with all of you. If you are true and honest in saying that we are committed in building an inclusive economy and therefore recognize the potential that is being played by this sector, let's all support that localization master plan. As a department, we are doing few things to enhance localization. Honorable members that were here in the 6th administration or those that follow the work that we do, they would have noted that we, as the department, passed the policy on localization, and that was approved by Cabinet. We've put in place certain instruments like the Enterprise Supplier Development Committee of Practice, wherein we partnered with large corporates, including retailers, to look at how we collectively increase SMMEs in their supply chains. We also de-risk this through supplier guarantees, financial and non-financial support that we provide. We continue to negotiate with big corporates on availing shelf space for our entrepreneurs, including working with Proudly SA through the e-commerce platform that we are calling for utilization of by the entrepreneurs and the consumers at large. I know you love buying online, also buy online from the Proudly SA platform that promotes your entrepreneurs who are your voters. Research indicates that individual SMMEs do not have the economy of scale advantages to gain and sustain export opportunities. And this is why, as the department, we are introducing models of aggregating volumes for export markets, which will enable many MSMEs to get through the compliance and regulatory burdens associated with the exports and therefore create sustainable markets, because we can take Maxhosa to Paris and many other countries, but if the quality and the pace of production is low, they're not going to be able to sustain those markets. So it's important that we look at the entire value chain of this business and make sure that we bring as many designers on board, including other participants, so that they can be sustainable. We are calling on all state organs, private sector and committees to support our localization effort in order to create jobs and grow the industry for the benefit of our country. We have disbursed as government more than 5 billion rands during the 6th administration to the sector, but again, the sector remains largely dominated by a few grouping, which is what we're trying to address together with the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition to say there's the need for us to diversify ownership of the value chain in the textile industry, not for it to be monopolized by a particular grouping. We provide credit guarantee, as I said. We do have finance for small enterprise manufacturing support program, which again, we're going to be doubling this year, working with the Minister or Minister Dau, and that fund you are going to announce sooner because there's a need to invest more on marginalized entrepreneurs of our country. We have set aside 344 million rands for township and rural enterprise program. We are providing asset assist program, which goes up to 250,000 rands worth of equipment to entrepreneurs from the township and rural areas that are in need of both financial and non-financial support. Honorable Chairperson, the fourth area of support we provide to small clothing and textile producers is business development and skill support. If you go to many of the clothing houses, you find out that it is not South Africans that are working there, it is non-South Africans. And many a times when engaged with the owners, they tell us that it's because of the skills, that we're not investing much in specialization of this sector, which is why you had the honorable member saying it is high time that we partner with the likes of China, Turkey, and others that are good in the retail space in terms of this sector that we're involved in. And we are looking at the opportunities that are presented both by the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, G20, and all the partnerships that we have to say, how do we benefit this sector? Because everybody agrees, but at the center of it is utilization of technology that we must not be shy to invest in, because these big machines requires lots of money. As a result, most of our international designers, they're not able to manufacture in South Africa. They have to leave the country. Therefore, they transport the jobs and the taxes. So are our big retailers that we're calling upon to make sure that they invest locally so that we can create the jobs that we need. We are partnering with SETAs in order to provide certain skills in the industry. But as I said, exchange programs become very critical. And this is what we are intending to be doing this financial year and on top of what has been done. Together with the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, we fully agree that as sister departments, time has arrived that we work together. Because as I said, we can never build big businesses without building small businesses. We can never transform our economy. We can never include everyone and create the jobs if the small businesses are not sustainable, which is why we're calling upon yourselves that when we come to this house to make certain amendments in certain legislations, please do support us. Try to understand that what we're trying to do is to make the best out of the capabilities that South Africa have in order to make sure that our economy reclaims its rightful place and the people of South Africa begin to work and we take pride in the clothes that we wear. As Xhosas go to Imigidi and Bafazi Bayabhenguza, Abazala Makhwenkwe, we want to see the traditional attire being authentic. There's nothing disappointing about a people and a nation that takes pride in culture, but wears everything fake about it. And this is why South Africans will plead with you, public representatives of our people, to make sure that when that time comes for us to include and amend the legislation, you walk the path with you and encourage South Africans to support local designers because they leave them in their doorsteps. They go and buy on the shops because they say it's cheaper, but that cheap is what is destroying the future of your own children because there are no taxes and investment that is paid in this country. Chairperson, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for that brilliant input. And I noted that the Honourable Minister mentioned a few times that this industry is close to her heart. And I know it's not only because of the economics, but also because she's always so smartly dressed. So I'm sure she also supports the local economy. Thank you very much, Minister. Honourable delegates, I've also been informed that the Honourable Minister might leave us in a short while, but she will join in online and follow the discussions that will ensue hereafter. I now go on to the next speaker on my list, and that's the Honourable Boshoff. Honourable Boshoff, you have 10 minutes.
Chair, before the clock starts running, Honourable Minister, just give us the name of the people that make your clothes. Thank you very much. Honourable Chairperson, esteemed colleagues and fellow South Africans, today we address an issue that strikes at the core of South Africa's future, that of unlocking the economical potential of our township and rural economies. There is tremendous opportunity within these communities to create jobs, reduce inequality, and empower individuals. One of the most promising ways to achieve this is by revitalizing our clothing and textile industries, which have the power to transform these communities into thriving centers of economic activity. However, it seems that the ANC's approach to the clothing and textile industry is a bit like an old jacket left forgotten at the back of the closet, out of sight, out of mind. While our communities are calling for opportunities and investment, the government seems content with mothballing the potential of this industry, much like a forgotten wardrobe staple that never sees the light of day. In the Democratic Alliance, we don't believe in the ANC's approach of wardrobe malfunction. We know the South Africa's clothing and textile industry is the perfect fit for job creation in townships and rural areas, tailored to reduce inequality and designed to empower local community. While the ANC's a version of fashion forward may be to keep this industry hanging by a thread, we as the DA are ready to cut out the excuses and bring real solutions to our people. We only have to look at the Western Cape, honourable colleagues, to see how this industry is flourishing. The City of Cape Town has partnered with the Cape Clothing and Textile Cluster by establishing an Origin 8 from startup to Scale Up program, which is the first of its kind, aiming to expose SMMEs to major national retail requirements, helping them bridge the gaps that exist in their businesses to better align with industry standards and customer expectations. Furthermore, in March of this year, the City of Cape Town launched a funded program titled Project Present, which is administered by the Cape Clothing and Textile Cluster. This project saw the cluster partner with 14 leading manufacturers, representing 6,000 employees, to disseminate best practices in absenteeism management. Over the past 6 months, the program has invested more than 600 hours in training 104 leaders and frontline workers, equipping them with the tools necessary to cultivate consistent attendance and improve workplace outcomes across the industry. The program has been massively successful in increasing productivity and minimizing absenteeism. Honourable Chair, South Africa's townships and rural areas are home to a wealth of talent, craftsmanship, cultural expertise, and entrepreneurial spirit. By creating opportunities within clothing and textiles, we can support and grow these talents, nurture our entrepreneurial drive, and make local economies more resilient. By investing in a comprehensive approach to revitalizing these industries, we need to foster growth for market participants to create sustainable, high-impact jobs and offer township and rural communities a real chance to thrive economically. The creation of local production hubs and small business incubation and development projects will greatly assist in reducing transportation costs and making supply chains shorter and more resilient. This will allow manufacturers to serve nearby retailers and consumers directly, making the products more affordable and accessible. Additionally, by establishing public-private partnerships, we can leverage investment for building infrastructure such as roads, energy, and internet access, which will support these businesses. Infrastructure improvements not only aid the clothing and textile industries, but also attract other businesses and stimulate the local economy. For our clothing and textile industries to compete in a globalized world, they must be supported by a skilled workforce. by investing in training programs that equip young people and women in townships and rural areas with the necessary skills in garment making, textile design, and entrepreneurship will go a long way in growing this industry. The DA has for many years now advocated for policies to reduce barriers to market access for township and rural entrepreneurs, which have unfortunately fallen on deaf ears. By adopting these approaches, we can assist the small clothing and textile businesses to have access to national and even international markets. Initiatives like Buy Local must be supported, and we're going to hold the Minister of Small Business to that. These campaigns, combined with strategic partnerships with major retailers, could allow township and rural manufacturers to showcase their products across the country. Furthermore, with the rise of e-commerce, it is clear that we have an incredible opportunity to connect township and rural producers directly to consumers. By supporting online marketplaces and providing digital skills and training, we can help these businesses reach new customers and expand their footprint. By creating jobs that cater to these groups, meaningful strides can be made towards reducing gender and youth unemployment while fostering inclusive economic growth. When women and young people have income and stable employment, whole communities benefit as they reinvest in education, health, and community projects. Furthermore, the DA is committed to empowering women and youth entrepreneurs by ensuring they have access to financing, mentorship, and market networks, as well as cutting red tape. And by focusing on these groups, we can create a ripple effect that lifts entire communities out of poverty. While recognizing the importance of ensuring that these small businesses have access to broader markets, we must also ensure that we create a framework that provides the necessary support to local businesses to grant them the opportunity to grow and succeed. We need to develop a clothing and textile sector that is resilient and sustainable, with loyal customer base and products that can compete on quality, durability, and innovation. Supporting local industry also aligns with our goals for environmental sustainability. Local production reduces the carbon footprint associated with imported goods and supports ethical manufacturing practices. Chairperson, in conclusion, revitalizing South Africa's clothing and textile industry is not merely an economic initiative. It is most definitely an opportunity to rebuild the fabric of our society by empowering those who have been left out of the traditional economic growth. It is therefore imperative that we ensure a focus on township and rural economies to assist in creating jobs, eradicate the scourge of unemployment, reduce inequality, and offer a sustainable path forward for millions of South Africans. It is therefore our belief as the DA to remain committed in fostering these industries by investing in local manufacturing hubs, reducing barriers to market access, and supporting skills development. Together, we can create a thriving clothing and textile sector that not only supports local communities, but also puts South Africa on the global stage as a leader in sustainable and culturally rich manufacturing. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution, Honorable Boshoff. And let's hope that the wardrobe malfunctions leave themselves in your speech and don't find any further expression in this House today. Having said that, honorable members, let's move on. The House now recognizes the Honorable Sowisa from the Northern Cape. We invite you to the podium to take the debate further. Honorable Sowisa.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's a pity that the minister left before time because she asked the question, how many of us are wearing clothes that were designed? I'm wearing clothes that were designed by a young lady in the Northern Cape called Zandile Mgono, who's responsible for always doing my uniform that I'm wearing. Further, Zandile is one of the ladies that designed a dress for Miss Heritage Northern Cape 2021, which made the young lady to win the contest in 2021. So it's a pity that she left before time, because I would have told her that this is what we do as EFF. We go out there and identify the people that we need to support in this industry. That being said, Deputy Chairperson, let me first begin by sending greetings to the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Sello Julius Malema, and the entire leadership and ground forces, and further remind all that kusekhaya la. Chairperson, the clothing and textile industry is a global powerhouse which touches every aspect of our daily lives. It is an industry that has a long history in South Africa and is a significant source of employment for women and for many families which are dependent on it for survival. However, it is concerning to note that despite the many positive characteristics of the sector, it has performed poorly in South Africa and has faced numerous challenges in today's times. One of the most significant challenges is growing global competition as cheap imports have entered local market. So much so that even provinces such as KwaZulu-Natal and Western Cape, which were once dominant provinces in South Africa clothing industry, are uncompetitive in this global market. The failure of having protective industrial policy in place has led to the killing of local industry. While South Africa's protection declined, countries such as China have built massive competitive clothing industries with the sole purpose of exporting to other countries, with South Africa being the biggest client. This led to a decline in manufacturing and 50% imports dominancy in clothing and textile. Some of the other challenges faced in this industry include lack of capital, lack of investment in technology, lack of innovation and skills development, high labor costs in relation to output, high labor costs in relation to output, outdated management skills, and high costs of regulations which affect the ability to survive and create jobs in the advanced global competition. All this coupled with growing pressure to this environmental friendly. Chairperson, the clothing textile industry has also seen a decline in employment and job losses of 121,500 workers between the year 2005 and 2021. We have seen how over the years, many industrial sites have closed down. Thus, even though in the year 2022, 2.2 billion was allocated to support 154 entities with the possibility of employment of 24,000 people. And in 2024 September, another 2.2 billion was again allocated to the textile for recovery and growth for the same 154 entities and for the same 24,000 people. Chairperson, there currently exists a decline in manufacturing because the government is focused on imports than exports. And locally, the focus area for manufacturing is only in the city of Johannesburg, city of Ekurhuleni, and city of Cape Town and eThekwini. Thus, once again indicate that people have to leave their homes to seek for employment in these cities. Industries in this country are suffering, and they are suffering in all other sectors as well, not only in the clothing. What is even worse is that the government is the biggest culprit that is killing these industries. The textile sector in this country is monopolistic in character, making it difficult for small businesses to emerge or even succeed, which demonstrate that there exists a lack of transformation in this country. There also exist about 8,800 clothing and textile companies in South Africa, yet very few are Black-owned or owned by women or youth. The key role players in this industry remain Mr. Price, Woolworth, TFG, Truworths, and Pick n Pay. Chairperson, in Kimberley, there used to exist a clothing company called Jeff Company that used to employ women and men who reside within the Solplaatje municipality, and this company was the pride of the province. And any person employed there felt privileged and honored. Unfortunately, the company closed down. This led to a loss of jobs and no income for many. Some managed to find jobs elsewhere, but not in the same industry, while others tried their hand at sewing garments for local people with no real income. High volume of imports saw the closing of the Jeff Company in Kimberley. There have been many other clothing companies like Jeff which have had to close down. Some closed as a result of mass production of counterfeit goods which have moved far beyond merely copying designer bags and clothing. Chairperson, if industrialization were the sole purpose of focusing on clothing and textile were championed, many men and women would be at the forefront to provide South Africa with clothing that speaks to the different cultures within the country. There, therefore, needs to be a reopening of the clothing and textile industry so as to ensure that the economic growth. The government also needs to relook its policies on imports and focus on the revival closed down textile and clothing companies. More investment needs to be put into the locally manufactured items. More promotion needs to be done for the same products. Municipalities also need to play a role in identifying potential people that have an interest in venturing in the clothing and textile industry. Reopening of all industrial sites with the sole purpose of revitalizing the industry should be sole priority, for there is a need for more jobs to be created with each province, specifically places where unemployment is high, like in the Eastern Cape. The state needs to play a role in job creation. As the EFF, we are not surprised by the job loss trend which has taken root of our country, because South Africa's economy is incapable of creating jobs in its current direction. We must prioritize a state-led reindustrialization of the economy, investing in productive sectors to benefit our people. One of the ways which this can be done is through the expropriation of land, as this will ensure that land is availed to build and promote for industrialization. Availability of land can be distributed to people seeking to start their businesses of clothing and textile for the sole purpose of employing people. This will lead to the positive contribution to the economic growth of the country and lesser people depending on grants from government. Government needs to minimize imports from other countries. It needs to focus on industrialization. This means that all companies need to become better and more efficient to remain competitive. Lastly, Deputy Chairperson, it is evident that there exists within the GNU a lack of political will to enact effective policies and interventions to address the root causes of challenges found in the clothing and textile industry. The EFF would therefore like to emphasize once again, to Deputy Chairperson, that the only party that needs to stand ready to take decisive actions to rectify the failures of the current government and implement bold progressive policies that will create sustainable employment opportunities in this and many other industries to empower South Africans. So, laba bacabanga ukuthi siyahamba kusekhaya kwa-EFF, let's revitalize our clothing and textile. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Suwisa. Order, honorable members. We now move and invite the Honorable Sithole from the Northwest Province to take the debate forward. Honorable Sitole.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister of Small Business Development in absentia, Honorable MEC, Honorable Maile, Honorable Masilela, Honorable Kekana, and honorable members and fellow South African, good afternoon. Allow me to express my deep appreciation for the opportunity to take part in this very important debate. The clothing, textile, footwear, and leather sector is a significant part of South Africa's economy. It is a well-developed sector with a relatively high of diversification and supported by a well-established wholesaler and retail trade segment of about approximately 4,500 manufacturers. It accounts for about 2.5% of South African manufacturing output and serves as a major employer. Nationally, clothing, textile, footwear, and leather sector contributes 8% of manufacturing GDP and 2.9% of overall gross domestic product, which is the total value of goods produced and service provided in the country during 1 year. Importantly, the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather sector is one of the most labor-intensive segment of South Africa's manufacturing industry, with approximately 14% of all manufacturing jobs in the nation and currently in this sector. This indicates that between 60,000 and 80,000 jobs are supported by this industry. Additionally, the textile industry in South Africa, 11th largest export of manufactured goods, is textile. With combination of modern and traditional textile production method, the South African textile industry is also incredibly adaptable. The South African footwear industry, which include the manufacture, wholesale, import, and retail of shoes, slippers, boots, and safety shoes, is worth approximately 54.9 billion. With its duty-free access to the lucrative American market under the African Growth and Opportunity Act of 2000, South Africa, together with a number of sub-Saharan African nations, is perceived as a strategic investment destination for foreign clothing manufacture. The South African footwear manufacturing grew at an average annual rate of 10% over the past 5 years, resulting in significant import substitution in addition. In the last 10 years, leather and footwear export from South Africa grew by 167%, from 1.98 billion to over 6 billion. Honorable House Chair, it is for this reason that the African National Congress-led government has concentrated on enhancing domestic textile product procedures and delivery efficiencies after realizing the opportunity presented by the sector. We have also recognized the need to move with great decisiveness to revitalize this sector to unlock the economic potential of the township and rural economies to create jobs, reduce inequality, and empower local communities. We recognize that the township provides an existing small manufacturing base of textiles and clothing manufacture. This base needs to be harnessed and grown through skills and the development of cooperatives. We have also recognized the strategic need for the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and a Small Business Development to expand investment in developing the expansion of clothing, textile, footwear, and the leather sector in the country's rural areas, small towns, and township. The clothing textile sector provides important opportunity to expand small, medium, and micro enterprises, support to grow the value chain in the sector. This will also ensure that we unlock the economic potential of the township and rural economic to create jobs, reduce inequality, and empower local communities. Honorable House Chair, it might seem impossible for a micro business like Elihle Mgazi Primary Cooperative to thrive in this already competitive industry. For retail clients who outsource their cut, make, and trim, function the 100% Black-owned youth cooperative specialized in producing traditional attire, tracksuit, school uniform, and clothing. The micro business receive assistance through the informal economic support program of the Job Fund and Project Preparation Trust of KwaZulu-Natal, which provides tailored business development services to this undeserved industry. Building on the success of the pilot program, the project offers a micro enterprises access to a new market, product improvement, market partnership, training on how to run successful business, and appropriate financing. Honorable House Chair, the light industry, which is characterized by the production of consumer goods and tools using farm and non-farm products as a raw materials, has the capacity to absorb more labor than heavy industry because it is typically labor intensive. Small businesses like those in township can engage in it, and it is more appropriate for residential area. Therefore, by creating good for the local market, light manufacturing could significantly boost the township economy and lower unemployment rate. A variety of products such as toys, shoes, and food items are made using light manufacturing. Compared to heavy manufacturing, this kind of manufacturing is carried out on a small scale and frequently consume less energy and resources. The textile and clothing industry competitiveness improvement program and the clothing and textile competitive program is instrumental to foster our localization strategy in the sector's government. This is also safeguard employees in the apparel and textile industry. The government has put in place a number of labor laws. Among these laws is the Basic Condition of Employment Act, which establishes minimal requirement for pay and working conditions. Honorable House Chair, intervention mainly when dealing with a small business in the clothing and textile industry have been mainly concentrated on procurement, set aside entrepreneurship programs, and guaranteed funding for township-based business, while DTIC has concentrated on economic infrastructure in the form of industrial park. There is still a significant disconnect between the types of support that are available and the need of businesses. Stronger ties and a greater influence on business would result from improved coordination among the various support programs. The program for competitive clothing and textile is instrumental in developing the clothing and textile industry in South Africa, as it is targeted at supporting global competition for manufacturing and other apparel value chain participation. Honorable House Chair, according to our skill plan, we are aware that apparel and textile industry played a significant role in the economic development of nations like China, India, Japan, Singapore, and Taiwan. As a result, our nation has the chance to boost the industry in its effort to generate good, high-quality jobs and expand the economy. By improving quality pricing and the speed to market, we can help manufacturers increase their domestic market share through skills training. In the textile and parallel industry, technology is essential, and purchasing contemporary machinery can improve production quality and efficiency. In order to stay abreast of the most recent development in the industry, businesses should also think about updating their hardware and software. Any company in the textile and apparel industry need a skills workforce to succeed. So employers should give staff members frequent opportunity for training and development to stay abreast of the newest method, trend, and technology in the field. By lowering transportation and communication costs with reduced travel time, resourcing time and cost, and facilitating the discovery of a new input and output market. Investment in the township physical infrastructure can increase the productivity of input used by already existing private enterprise. As a new business open on or existing business grow, there is an attraction of a new private investment, including foreign direct investment. By improving their infrastructure, textile manufacturer can also lessen their labor impact. This covers things like upgrading, building energy efficiency, and putting in a new water and wastewater treatment system. Textile manufacturer can reduce their operating expenses by modernizing their infrastructure. Business and government can turn the textile sector into a global force for good by cooperating. We can build a profitable, ethical, and sustainable textile industry by utilizing sustainable material, increasing productivity, modernizing infrastructure, and promoting responsible consumptions. By increasing productivity, textile producers can also lessen their operation negative effects on the environment. Utilizing innovative technologies and energy-saving procedures can help achieve this. Water-saving technology, for instance, can help textile manufacturers less water during production. Additionally, they can use energy efficiency equipped to use the less electricity. Honorable House Chair, in conclusion, cooperative and SMEs requires venture capital and low interest capital to grow from the informal sector to formal SMMEs and from SMMEs to manufacturing. Industrial Park near township can house cooperative in textile and clothing manufacture as it creates an enabling environment.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Sitole. Honourable members, we now welcome the Honourable Zulu from Mpumalanga Province to the podium to take the debate forward. Thank you, Honourable Zulu.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Let me take this opportunity and greet all of you and say all protocols observed. Today we discuss the critical task of revitalizing the clothing and textile industries to unlock the economic potential in our townships and rural areas. This debate could be a turning point, but only if we recognize the stark reality the GNU has neglected these industries. And by extension, our people, it's time to hold this government accountable for the poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunity that their failures have inflicted on our communities. South Africa, as part of global communities, positively and negatively affected by trade agreements with countries around the globe. Textile and clothing industry have been impacted highly owing to the trade agreements, including the free trade agreements with other countries. This arrangement does have mixed impacts on the textile and clothing industry. Depending on the specific agreement and the country's other economic factors, the domestic industries are exposed to international competition with a consequential impact on employment, competencies, skills, income losses, and increase on reliance on social network. For example, South Africa clothing industry declined after the country joined the World Trade Organization's agreement on textiles and clothing. Any countries that depend much on exportation of its raw product add less or limited value to its gross domestic and is likely to increase its gross domestic expenditure owing to importation of goods and services. South Africa is no exception. The foregone situation has hard hit textile and clothing industry. SA produces approximately 80% best of the raw products, including wool, platinum, citrus, gold, timber, coal, sugarcane, etc. Owing to the lack of investing on new artificial intelligence and skills, SA finds itself exporting these products to other countries and in turn buy from them the final products. Honorable members, let's start with the basics. Our townships and rural areas are burdened by some of the highest unemployment rates in the world. These are not just statistics. These are families struggling to put food on the table, young people losing hope, and communities withering away due to a lack of opportunity. The clothing and textile industries could be providing decent work, especially for women, youth, yet the GNU has done nothing substantial to support the potential. The GNU claims to care about reducing inequality, yet it continuously fails to protect and empower our local industries. Every imported shirt, every foreign-made piece of clothing purchased by this government represents another job lost to our communities. Instead of supporting local industries that could create sustainable livelihoods, the GNU has chosen to support foreign suppliers. This is an affront to the very people they claim to represent. Instead, the GNU has abandoned them. They say they support skills development, but they refuse to invest in technical training centers that would provide a lifeline for our young people. We have youth in our townships and rural areas who are desperate for opportunities. They are ready to work, ready to learn, and ready to build a future, but the GNU has turned its back on them, leaving them to fend for themselves in a hostile economic climate. The MK Party calls on the government to establish training centers in townships and rural communities, creating opportunities for skills development that will empower our people to drive their local economies. The genuine lack of support is an indictment of their leadership, where the funds to support emerging businesses in townships and rural areas. Where are the programs to assist new entrants in the clothing and textile markets? The MK Party calls on the GNU to establish dedicated funds for townships and rural textile businesses and to eliminate the bureaucratic hurdles that are keeping our people from participating in the economy. There is not a request for handouts. This is a demand for opportunity and access that every South African deserves. The GNU failure to provide basic infrastructure is one of the biggest barriers facing local producers. How can we expect our clothing and textile industries to thrive when these communities face constant power outages, water shortages, and dilapidated infrastructure? It is impossible to produce competitive, high-quality goods under such. The MK Party believes that revitalizing the clothing and textile sector will require more than just words. It will require targeted investment in infrastructure, for township and rural areas without reliable electricity and inadequate facilities. Our people cannot compete. The GNU has ignored these infrastructure issues for too long. And our communities have paid the price. We demand action now. We need roads, power, water infrastructure that will support our industries and allow our people to work in dignity. The MK Party believes in an empowered, self-sufficient South Africa where township and rural communities are engines of economic growth. This is a vision the GNU has never supported. They have no commitment to a South Africa where local industries drive prosperity because they lack the political will to change the status quo. In closing, Honorable Chair, this debate has revealed a clear choice. The GNU's failure to act has left our township and rural areas in economic ruin. They have broken their promises, betrayed our people, and abandoned the industries that could bring prosperity and dignity to our communities. They've shown that they lack the vision, the commitment, and the courage to put South Africa first. The MK Party demands more than talk. We demand action, and only real action that will bring jobs, reduce inequality, and empower our local communities. We are here to hold the GNU accountable, to remind them of their duty to people and to demand that they finally deliver on their promises. If the GNU is unwilling or unable to support South Africa's township and rural economies, then it is time for a new leadership that will. The MK Party stands ready to lead, ready to act, and ready to rebuild our country on a foundation of dignity, self-sufficiency, and pride in local industry. Let us move forward and not with empty words of the GNU and with a renewed commitment to a South Africa that works for all its people. We have no time to lose. The people of South Africa deserve better, and the MK Party is here to ensure they get it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable members, we thank Mr. Zulu for his contributions. The debate will now continue online with the Gauteng MEC for Finance and Economic Development and Treasury. Continuing for us, Mr. Lebogang Maile. Mr. Maile.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Let me start by apologizing because I'm traveling from one of the bereaved families who have lost their kids from the poisonous food. As you know, we've got the problem in the province, hence I'm en route. So I would like to apologize profusely for participating. As the first thing, I would also like to acknowledge the Minister, the Deputy Minister, the MECs, the honorable members, ladies and gentlemen. The clothing, textile, footwear, and leather sector has existed since the mid-1900s and is closely tied to the unique history, heritage, and cultural traditions of the diverse regions of South Africa and broader SADC region. Over the centuries, the sector has maintained its significance not only to the country's economy, but to its quest for inclusivity. The sector in South Africa is one of the biggest in the region. It currently makes up approximately 14% of manufacturing in the country. Jobs, textiles and fabrics are 11th most exported goods from South Africa, and the sector accounts for 8% of the country. And although most of the manufacturing facilities that produce various textiles are located in 4 provinces, which is Gauteng, Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Free State, the economic benefits from the sector help South Africa on a national
Gauteng being a primary exporter benefits from strategic location, robust infrastructure, and a relatively strong economic base. It also holds key significance. The sector has not been spared the impact of globalization and trade liberalization. The sector has been dominated by Asian imports, which has led to the closure of many factories nationally, resulting in the loss of jobs and worsening South Africa's unemployment challenge. According to the Retail, Textile, Footwear, Leather Master Plan, between 2000 and 2008, 10,000 to 15,000 jobs were lost annually. These planned closures and associated job losses have resulted in the severe reduction of local capacity to produce. In addition to this, there's been a large number of factory closures across the country. The clothing, textile, footwear, and leather value chain experienced a decline in its share in manufacturing value added from 8.5% in 1994 to around 3% in 2019. The major challenges facing the country are the lack of skills and lack of machinery of the latest technology. These have been the major reasons, amongst others, for South Africa's battle to compete globally. In response to this challenge, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition developed the master plan in 2019. The master plan aims to increase employment to 333,000 through the expansion in procurement of local products and improving the sector's competitiveness, technology, skills, and transformation. And while the sector is not identified as a high growth sector, deemed a catalyst to contribute to the Gauteng province's economy and social development, the Grow Gauteng Together 2030 vision objective of implementing programs that have the potential to develop skills and create employment makes it significant. This is because the sector is labor intensive and can thus assist the province with decreasing high levels of unemployment.
MEC, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your sound is failing you. If you can perhaps just move around and see if you can find a better signal spot, it will assist you and us greatly.
Okay. How is it now? Is it fine now? House Chair? Is it fine now, House Chair?
It's a little better. Please continue.
According to the African Development Bank, roughly 70% of those employed in the sector in Southern Africa are women. The profile of these women is diverse, comprising of rural, township, as well as urban women. This is because women are actively engaged throughout the textile and clothing value chain, from cotton production to trade. According to United Development Organization, investing in developing women's skills to generate revenue in these areas leads to greater economic productivity and independence, with social and political benefits for their communities. In investing in the sector, we see great potential for economic empowerment in rural areas as well as in urban and peri-urban centers. As the Gauteng Department of Economic Development is set to implement the clothing, textile, leather, and footwear sector development program that aims to provide skills to youth in the township is into competitive enterprise localization purposes. The program will take place over a official year, which is 2024-2025. The program will focus on developing and upskilling 50 unemployed youth in various townships in Tswana into fully qualified textile and leather each product manufacturer companies, and should be able to establish a partnership with the industry with regard to job placement. The second financial year will focus on entrepreneurship with the emphasis on localization and SME support to provide capacity and capabilities to produce more local brands. This program will identify 30 textile and leather niche product manufacturers from the townships. The aim is to equip and improve their production processes, including the element of quality assurance. This opportunity will allow them to be able to produce globally competitive niche products. Lastly, the third financial year will focus on market access by integrating these elements. The project aims to create a dynamic and skilled workforce strengthen the sector through SMME development and contribute to economic development. As part of the department's mandate, we have hosted a market access facilitation workshop for the sector with the aim of assisting SMMEs to understand the environment they operate in. These initiatives aim to play a role in enhancing the competitiveness of the industry through the skills SMME development and unveiling opportunities to access markets with the purpose of creating jobs in the province. Despite holding the position of the main importer, Gauteng experienced a notable decline in imports in 2021, suggesting potential shifts in economic conditions or changes in supply chain dynamics. To address this issue of competitiveness and reverse import penetration, there is a need to develop partnerships with key industry players and relevant stakeholders to contribute towards the revitalization and inclusive growth of the industry. For this reason, the department will continue to work with and seek out private sector and civil society partners to be included in the growing partnerships that include companies such as Take a Lot, as well as higher learning institutions such as UNISA. In conclusion, the Gauteng Department of Economic Development believes in the value of investing in the sector as both an economic growth strategy and transformation imperative. We will continue to define the future of the sector in the context of a post-productivist provincial economy and to anchor the development of township and rural enterprise. Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you very much to the MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Treasury for putting your case forward. Perhaps the strongest part of that argument being that there's a strong case for better internet connectivity in Gauteng to drive economic development. Honourable members, we return to the House now, and I invite Honourable Farmer to take the podium and representing the Western Cape and the Patriotic Alliance. Honourable Farmer.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable members, the textile industry in developing countries such as South Africa contributes towards a large portion of blue-collar jobs and gross domestic product. Due to a combination of readily available low-cost labour, poorly enforced environmental regulations, export incentives such as the African Growth and Opportunity Act, and funding opportunities provided by the Industrial Development Corporation in South Africa, these developing countries can prove to be fertile ground for investors seeking textile manufacturing opportunities. Textile enterprises such as tannery and denim manufacturing consume large amounts of water and generate large amounts of toxic waste. This poses a problem both from the viewpoint of the enterprises as well as the welfare of communities and the environment. For textile enterprises, the cost of purchasing water for operations and partially treating the waste for environmental discharge can cost large sums. It can sometimes be more profitable to recover the wastewater effluent generated, treat it, and recycle the water back into operations instead. For communities and the environment, textile operations have been known to consume up to a third of potable water generated by municipalities. This causes immense pressure on an already overburdened water system. In addition, the waste generated by the textile enterprises, which is usually discarded in river bodies, contains toxic chemicals and heavy metals which affect the environment, the crops and livestock of communities living downstream, as well as the general health of the individuals who rely on the river water. We need to provide green and sustainable solutions taking into account both the perspectives of textile enterprises and communities in order to enhance the bottom line of the textile industry by recovery, treating, and the reuse of the wastewater. This process can ensure that municipal systems are not overburdened and can mitigate negative impacts on the lives of communities downstream of textile operations. South Africa has a long-standing tradition in the clothing and textile industry, with Cape Town and KwaZulu-Natal serving as key hubs. In Cape Town, the sector holds a notable comparative advantage. Cape Town stands out as a major center for clothing and textile production in South Africa, with the industry playing a key role in the city's economy. The city has a well-deserved reputation for its strong design aesthetic, and the clothing and textile industry embodies this creative spirit. The sector is a significant source of employment. It is the third largest employer in Cape Town's manufacturing sector. The industry's labor-intensive nature also presents a compelling opportunity for investors to contribute to job creation and economic growth in Cape Town. Cape Town benefits from a high concentration of retail head offices, including major players like Woolworths, Foschini Group, Truworths, PEP, and Cape Union Mart. This proximity of retailers to local designers and manufacturers creates a vertically integrated value chain that is highly responsive to fast-changing fashion trends. The city's growing fashion design industry further enhances this advantage, fostering a collaborative environment where creativity and innovation come together. Organizations like the Clotex and the Cape Town Fashion Council play a vital role in supporting the industry at different points in the value chain, sharing a common vision for growth and development. While the clothing and textile industry has faced competition from low-cost imports in recent years, the rise of fast fashion has created exciting new possibilities for local producers. Consumers are increasingly seeking trendy items with shorter lead times, which plays to the strengths of Cape Town's agile and responsive manufacturing sector. There is also a growing consumer awareness and preference for locally produced goods, driven by a desire to support local businesses and reduce environmental impact. This trend presents a significant opportunity for Cape Town's clothing and textile industry, which is known for its quality craftsmanship and commitment to ethical production practices. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Farmer. Honourable members, we now stay in the Western Cape. We do, however, go back online, and I invite the chairperson of the Western Cape Provincial Oversight Committee on Social Development, the Honourable Kaiser Philander. Honourable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, esteemed members, and fellow South Africans. Today we confront a matter of great importance, the revitalization of the clothing and textile industry. This industry, once had the pride of South African manufacturing, has been left decimated, leading to job losses and shattered communities, particularly in our townships and rural areas. The Western Cape stands as South Africa's clothing and textile hub, boasting the highest concentration of clothing manufacturing in the country. Known for its high value-added garments, this province is rightly considered the fashion and design capital of our nation. Yet, despite this potential, the industry has been neglected and mishandled under ANC rule. For 30 years, Chairperson, the national government has let down an industry with the power to uplift millions. It's time we talk about the truth, as uncomfortable as it may be. Imagine the lives of textile workers, the tailors, seamstresses, and factory hands who once found pride and purpose in this industry. Many come from impoverished backgrounds. Their hands are callous, their backs ache, and yet they labor on, motivated by the hope of a dignified life and the chance to provide for their families. But year after year, they've watched their dreams wither as the industry that once employed hundreds of thousands has been ground into the dust. Chairperson, as a result of this lack of support, these workers are seeing their livelihoods vanish, not because there isn't demand, but because the national government has failed to protect them. We now largely import from China, flooding our markets with cheaply made products and turning away from our own people who are desperate to work. We've outsourced jobs that could have stayed here in South Africa, in our townships and in our rural economies. It's heart-wrenching and it's wrong. For 3 decades, the ANC has talked about supporting industries, creating jobs, and growing the economy, but talk is cheap. The reality is that under their leadership, the clothing and textile industry has been left to rot. They've allowed South African textile workers to be undercut by foreign competition with no serious protections in place. And while they claim to be the party of the working class, always referring to themselves as comrades and quoting the communist ideals of Karl Marx, their actions betray them. They are in truth Gucci-wearing communists, enriching themselves at the expense of our own workers and letting South African jobs vanish. This is the exact hypocrisy that Chris Hani warned us about. Leaders who drape themselves in the language of the working class, yet sell out our industries and people. This is a government that has failed to act, and in that failure, they had let down generations of workers. Chairperson, if we want to turn this around, we need bold, focused action and not hollow promises. We need to stimulate economic growth, create jobs, and empower our communities. But this requires vision, strong policy, and committed leadership, qualities that the ANC has clearly lacked. We need to empower our township and rural economies by protecting local industries, supporting South African businesses, and prioritizing South African workers. The Western Cape is demonstrating that there is another way. Under the DA's leadership, we have implemented the Growth for Jobs strategy, a clear and actionable plan to grow our provincial economy and create jobs. This strategy sets a challenging yet ambitious goal to grow the Western Cape's economy by 4% and 6% per year by 2035. It also acknowledges that the textile industry is not only vital to our economy, but is also a cornerstone of our cultural identity, showcasing the skills and the creativity of South African artisans. By harnessing this industry's potential, we can create a vibrant ecosystem that supports local talent and nurtures innovation. The G4J strategy recognizes the meaningful economic transformation requires redress, but redress is not achieved by empty words or symbolic gestures. Real redress happens when we pull more people into the economy, stimulate competition, improve skills and productivity, raise investment, reduce poverty, and increase employment. The Western Cape's approach is grounded in action, not rhetoric. Chairperson, our province has the lowest unemployment rate in the country, and we are winning the fight against joblessness. The reason is simple. We do not sit back and let industries crumble. We act. We invest in our people and in their potential. We are building an economy that values local industries like textiles and that encourages South Africans to work, produce, and thrive within their own communities. The DA envisaged a South Africa where the textile industry is restored to its former glory, an industry that not only creates jobs, but also embodies the pride and the resilience of our South African workers. Imagine an industry that thrives, that keeps South African rands in South African pockets, that creates goods for South Africans by South African citizens. This is possible. It's within reach, but it requires government support, investment, and a commitment to prioritizing local over foreign imports whenever possible. Chairperson, my fellow South Africans have been neglected and sidelined for too long, watching helplessly as the industries that could have supported them have fallen to the wayside. This does not have to be the future of the textile industry or any industry in South Africa. Our government of national unity now presents an opportunity to bring about real change and empower communities across the country. We need an industry that connects our townships and rural areas to the broader economy, an industry that allows parents to put food on the table, and an industry that brings dignity and pride back to work. Our people deserve a government that doesn't just make promises, but delivers. They deserve a government that values their work, that fights for their industries, and that believes in their ability to create, to innovate and to compete. We have the talent, we have the drive and the dedication. What we need is the government that matches it. The time for words is over. Now is the time for action. We must revitalize the clothing and textile industries, not just as an economic imperative, but as a moral one. And we owe this to the millions of South Africans who wants to work, who wants to contribute, and who deserve to see their hard work rewarded. The Western Cape is leading the way, and we invite the rest of the country to follow. We can create jobs, we can grow the economy, and we can empower our people. It's time to rebuild the South African dream. It's time to give our textile workers, our townships, and our rural areas a fair shot at success. I thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kaiser Philander. Honourable members, the Honourable NCOP will now take the debate further, arguing on behalf of the Limpopo Province and the Democratic Alliance. Honourable Pinar.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, fellow honourable colleagues. And as always, to my fellow South Africans, goeiemiddag. For almost a generation now, government has tried to create an atmosphere of rapid economic growth and job creation, but has failed miserably. I want to thank my honourable colleagues from the ANC for sponsoring this debate. He has clearly come to realise that they are in desperate need of fresh, new, workable ideas. Honourable Boshoff has already laid out a clear and easy plan to follow on how we can revitalise this critical sector of our economy. So I hope everyone was taking notes. But before we can start to build this industry again, colleagues, we need to know where government went wrong so we can learn from our mistakes and ensure we stay away from job-killing policies. Since the late 1990s and early 2000s, the textile industry has lost thousands of jobs and millions in investments that have in turn forced thousands of Africans to join the lines at SASA. But between then and now, two critical things transpired. Firstly, in the fight for the working class, the government forgot about the employers and forced union bosses into the boardroom. Many only worried about their own pockets and membership totals in order to get themselves recognized so they can make unreasonable and unmaintainable demands from the industry already suffering from small margins. I hope those union bosses, some of whom are now in government today, are proud of themselves, that they got what they wanted. They nearly killed the whole industry and lost thousands of jobs in the process. Secondly, we saw the rise of the Chinese industrial markets, where they use inhumane and low wages conditions to ensure the industry cannot compete. But instead of the former government pulling out all the stops to support and grow these manufacturers so they can compete on the same stage, they sat back, created more labor laws, and watched the industry decay. So now that we know what the problem is and was, what can we do to mitigate it? Oops. I lost my space. Apologies, colleagues. Firstly, we need to make it easy as possible for businesses to thrive and not force greedy unions into the boardroom to dictate the way forward. I have said it once and I will continue to say it. Allow businesses to be business, honourable members. Remember, we need them. They don't need us. Secondly, in no way we need to make it more difficult for someone to employ people, especially with minimum wage increases and labour laws that do not support economic growth. We must not allow exploitation, but we should also not legislate ourselves into uncompetitiveness. The barriers to employment should be as minimal as possible. This will be a good start if the industry is ever to succeed. However, we need to come together to mitigate the low-cost textile imports from the Chinese markets by incubating and growing our small businesses. launching development projects, and enabling SMEs to gain access to infrastructure, supply development links, and investor connections. Otherwise, we are dead in the water before we even get started. Honourable Chairperson, honourable members, South Africans are looking to us for hope and inspiration. Millions are sitting at home, desperate for opportunity to work. Let us, as government, also never forget that people do not want to live on government handouts. People want the dignity and the respect of their families and community by having decent work and earning a living wage. This is what this government must strive to deliver to all South Africans. Let us give people hope again. Let us give people the dignity of work. And let us commit this government as one for the people, that they can trust in to create an economic environment where our people will have the opportunity of dignified, sustainable employment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Pinard. Members of the National Council of Provinces, it is now my distinct pleasure to welcome to the House, debating online, the Honourable Andrew Whitfield, who is the Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. Honourable Minister Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honourable Minister of Small Business Development, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, on the online platform, Chairperson, members of the NCOP, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to extend my gratitude to the National Council of Provinces and the proposer of this motion for the opportunity to debate in today's sitting on a topic that holds immense potential for the GNU's apex priority of inclusive growth and job creation. As South Africa transitioned from the dark days of apartheid to a fully fledged constitutional democracy, the doors of our economy were flung open, exposing our markets to international trade and for the clothing and textile sector to increased competition from low-cost producers in countries such as China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. These countries began flooding the South African market with cheaper imports, and our local producers have struggled to compete on both price and scale. Many South African factories were unable to match the efficiency and cost advantages of international competitors, leading to mass layoffs of employees and the closure of plants and factories, particularly in areas that had clothing, textiles, footwear, and leather industrial zones like in KwaZulu-Natal, the Free State, and the Western Cape. Outdated technology and insufficient investment in modern machinery and production techniques have also limited competitiveness over time, long before the GNU arrived just 3 months ago. The fragmented supply chains worsened the situation because many local textile producers depended on one another. So the closure of a few suppliers disrupted entire networks and supply chains. Furthermore, the relative higher labor cost in South Africa has made it difficult for local manufacturers to compete with lower wage economies such as China. The situation has further been exacerbated by energy and transport costs, unstable supply of electricity, and rapidly deteriorating municipal services and infrastructure in many parts of our country. This situation requires our focused intervention and assistance to revive the sector and to help these businesses to grow in order to create jobs and for the people of our country to be able to keep their jobs well into the future. The clothing and textiles industry have historically been pillars of economic development in many countries, since the entry barriers are relatively low and development of the clothing industry ultimately creates demand for primary textile materials in upstream industry. The clothing and textile industry is well aligned to our thriving agricultural sector, with South Africa being a significant cotton producer in the Southern African Cotton Basin, as well as the second largest wool producer and largest mohair producer in the world. Thus, the revitalization of the clothing and textile industry would have significant impact on the development of direct, indirect, and induced jobs in the economy, including township and rural economies. Now, honorable members, township and rural economies are often overlooked, and that point has been well canvassed in this debate. They are often overlooked in national economic strategies, yet they hold vast potential. These areas are home to a large portion of our population, many of whom are unemployed or underemployed. Now, by revitalizing the clothing and textiles industries, we intend to tap into this labor force, providing meaningful employment and stimulating local economies. This is not just about creating jobs. It's about fostering entrepreneurship, developing skills, and building sustainable communities. Just 2 decades ago, we had a large concentration of clothing industries in rural areas such as Dimbaza and Etua in Eastern Cape, Ga-Rankuwa in Gauteng, Kwaitwa, Botshabelo, and Tabanchu in the Free State, eZakheni in Ladysmith in KwaZulu-Natal. Through the DTIC Industrial Parks Revitalization Program, some industrial parks have been supported with infrastructure upgrades for factories and critical bulk support for their industrial estate requirements. 15 industrial parks have been funded under this program, and they've managed to sustain approximately 64,000 jobs in total. Although there are a variety of sectors operated by different tenants in these parks, the business case for supporting the textiles industry and its value chain is valid and motivated by the existence of a wealth of skills and local market access in townships and rural communities. To this end, a replicable model of township textile hubs has been initiated in the township of Zwelicha, Ebishu in the Eastern Cape, and it includes designing textile manufacturing, printing, and CMT processes. The network of these women-owned enterprises includes skills and training elements which are undertaken in partnership with the Lovedale TVET College and Walter Sisulu University. The DTIC is collaborating with the Department of Small Business Development in the Eastern Cape Development Corporation to support this outstanding initiative. Another initiative that the DTIC, along with the National Empowerment Fund, has assisted to create jobs and grow the economy is Itera Trading and Projects. In the Free State town of Putaditshaba, the NEF has funded Itera, a clothing manufacturer, with an investment of 7.5 million rand. Itera manufactures jeans and chinos for large retail clients such as Mr. Price, Jet, Ackermans, and Clothing Junction. The business employs 220 people who support an average family of 4 persons each. Therefore, 880 people are supported through the employment created by this business. Itera operated in Putaditshaba for 15 years and at its peak was able to employ over 600 employees from the community. In early 2020, before the pandemic, Itera began experiencing challenges due to service delivery protests in the area, severe electricity cuts, and water shortages, which were escalated further by COVID lockdowns and load shedding. This created significant revenue declines and threatened the future of the business. However, through the DTIC's intervention and programs, the NEF provided the company with repayment moratoriums and additional financial and non-financial support to ensure sustainability and continued operation of the business. This approach has paid off as the company is back on a growth trajectory that will ensure that it employs over 250 more people over the next 3 years. The NEF has also managed to restore operations at the factory by investing in new machinery that increased the production lines from 1 to 2. The NEF is further assisting Itera with an additional production line to take the total production lines to 3. This will ensure that the company is able to increase its job numbers to more than the previous 600 workers in total. The initial lessons learned through the support of the Industrial Parks Revitalization Program has given the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition a critical baseline framework upon which our revised strategy for intervening and supporting townships and rural economies is to be proposed. Amongst the critical aspects to be revised under the new program include ownership or control of industrial parks, governance and entity management, internal and external resource management and plans, and dedicated skills and artisan precincts in every park to assist with local skills capacity building. The envisaged application of this new framework is Q1 of the 2025-26 financial year, and it is envisaged that all 6 current industrial parks under construction will be completed by the end of Q4 of the current financial year. As we all know, one of the most pressing issues facing South Africa today is the critical levels of unemployment, particularly among young South Africans. The clothing and textiles industries are labor-absorbing priority sectors, meaning they have the potential to create a significant number of jobs. By establishing factories and workshops in townships and rural areas, we can provide employment opportunities where they are needed most. This in turn will help to reduce inequality by providing stable incomes and improving living standards and bringing work opportunities to the communities that need them the most. Revitalizing these industries is not just about economic benefits, it's also about social empowerment. When people have jobs, they have a sense of purpose and dignity. They can support their families, invest in their communities, and contribute to the local economy. Moreover, by focusing on local production, we can preserve and promote cultural heritage, such as traditional textile designs and techniques. Of course, revitalizing the clothing and textiles industry is not to be without its challenges. We must address issues such as access to finance, infrastructure, as well as training and education. Government policies and support are crucial in creating an enabling environment for these industries to thrive. Public-private partnerships can also play a significant role in providing the necessary resources and expertise. At the national government level, the Department of Small Business Development has several support programs which Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams has already touched on. They cover a wide range of sectors, including clothing, textiles, and footwear. The DTIC also has a support program that specifically targets growth in the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather sectors, and also caters for the further growth of the industry's early-stage startups. The Industrial Development Corporation is administering this fund on behalf of the department. In order to unlock economic potential of the township and rural economies, the role of local municipalities should not be underestimated. An overarching requirement for all economic and manufacturing sectors to grow is for local municipalities to improve and accelerate their service delivery, which includes stabilizing and improving finances, electricity, and water reliability, and enhancing safety and security in and around industrial zones and parks. The recent focus has been on energy due to load shedding and ESCOM challenges, but water is now becoming an increasingly critical matter in many parts of the country. In KZN particularly and Gauteng, water pressure into industrial areas is too low, unreliable, and expensive. This impacts firms across the spectrum, but particularly emerging businesses and SMEs who cannot afford to invest in any mitigation processes or equipment. The South African clothing and textile industry is currently largely concentrated in the metro and urban and semi-urban municipalities, with associated higher costs of doing business. South African consumers are demanding affordable and durable products that can be cost-effectively produced. This provides an opportunity for rural and township areas where some of the factor costs are relatively low, and the two national bargaining councils for the clothing and textiles industry have been offering special non-metro wage rates in support of developing employment in rural and township economies. A targeted decentralization of the light clothing industry into township and rural economies will improve cost competitiveness, localization, employment, and welfare impact much desired during the current cost of living crisis. In conclusion, honorable members, the revitalization of the clothing and textiles industries presents a unique opportunity to unlock the potential of township and rural economies. It is a pathway to creating jobs, reducing inequality, and empowering local communities. As we engage in this debate, let us consider the strategies and actions needed to make the vision a reality. Let us work together to build a future where every community can thrive and contribute to the nation's prosperity. Ultimately, we must not lose sight of our mission. And our mission is to make it easier for businesses to grow and create jobs so that people can get those jobs and keep those jobs. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Whitfield. Agbare lede, ons kom nou terug na die huis toe en ons gaan na terug na die Noord-Kaap en is nou die gebeur van die agbare Haie van der Berg. Honorable van der Berg.
Thank you, Chair. Being one of the last speakers, I feel like adding the words, so in summary. Every person, big or small, wears at least one pair of shoes, pants, underwear, skirt, jackets, jerseys. This is a huge market. But where do they come from? The tailor down the street, the local shoemaker, or perhaps the local mall selling imported goods? Most of them we buy nowadays ultimately is imported from other countries. And we buy them because they are cheap or they have a brand name. But do we ponder to think that, that our money, where our money goes? Right out of the country to pay for these imported goods, made by foreign people, employed by a foreign economy, and paid for with our hard-earned income. It's very important to protect the local economy, as found in townships, estimated to turn around about 1.5 billion rand annually. Protecting the clothing and shoemaking industry, for instance, is done by placing an import tariff on imported goods, making them a little more expensive, but ultimately it allows your local industry to compete with international role players, at least inside our country. The tariff also adds to the tax base and fiscus. If we can produce something locally, we should protect that commodity as it leads to more employment and money in circulation. This money can be spent and respent over and over without leaving the country or even the township. This is a true economic growth. South Africa had a very strong textile industry, producing linen, corporate clothing, schoolwear, to name but a few. We need to ask ourselves what happened to them and the thousands of jobs they created. The answer could be that they became uneconomical units due to rising wages and unprotected markets. They just could not compete with cheaper imports anymore. As government, we should also protect our primary producers. Also, for instance, cotton, wool, meat, maize, and grain farmers, as these products are converted into secondary and tertiary products in the township economies. The township economy should not be reliant on imported primary and secondary sector products. What happens if international supply gets cut off or an international disaster occurs? Kazi will have nothing to sell. Why are we not converting skins into leather in the townships? We also do not have enough cotton and wool mills producing yarn and ultimately cloth for clothing. Why are there no weavers anymore? In reference to the synthetic materials used in clothing products, we have to ask ourselves, why are we not market leaders in these synthetic technologies? We have Sasol. Sasol produces plastics, which is a major component in synthetic materials. The township economy needs formal loan funding to expand. In order for financial support to happen, Kazi will have to become more formalized and ultimately start to contribute to tax revenue. Resistance to formalization could be a dampening effect, and zero rating on locally produced products might be needed to bridge this issue. Trading informally is not new to Africa and should be embraced. Supporting locally produced products should become more fashionable. Chair, the time has come for us to also repair and rebuild our primary and secondary production sectors so that we may have reliable materials and food source in order to grow the township economy. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Van der Berg. Honourable members, we now move to the inputs that will be coming from Mpumalanga's MEC for Economic Development and Tourism, Honourable MC Masilela. Honourable Masilela.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Chair, Honourable Minister, Honourable MSCs, Honourable Members, good afternoon. The textile industry in South Africa, including Mpumalanga, has experienced significant fluctuations over the years, facing both challenges and opportunities. Here's an overview of the current state of the industry, particularly as it relates to Mpumalanga. The textile industry in South Africa has historically been a key sector providing jobs and contributing to exports. However, since the early 2000s, the industry has struggled due to cheaper imports, especially from Asian countries. This led to factory closures and job losses across the country. The textile industry, however, remains a major employer, providing around 14% of jobs in the manufacturing sector. In Cape Town, the textile industry is the third largest employer in the manufacturing sector. Textiles are South Africa's 11th largest manufactured goods export, and the textile industry accounts for 8% of South Africa's gross domestic product. The textile industry is diverse and uses a mix of traditional and modern production processes. The industry is also benefiting from digital technologies such as digital design software, visual sampling, and material tracing. In recent years, the government has taken steps to revive the sector, including through the Department of Trade, Industry and Competitions, Clothing and Textiles Competitiveness Program, which offers incentives to manufacturers to upgrade equipment and improve productivity. On challenges faced in Mpumalanga, like other provinces, the Mpumalanga textile sector faces intense competition from low-cost imports, which impacts local manufacturers to be profitable, and the DTIEC has already established import tariffs up to the maximum allowed limit in terms of international trade agreements. On skills shortage, there's a limited supply of skills textiles workers, particularly in rural areas, which has affected productivity and innovation. In this regard, government and commodity associations like Cotton SA are working hard to provide the required guidance and expertise to ensure these skills are available within the rural and township economy. The department has also, on a small scale, assisted various cooperatives in the textile industry with various tools of trade like sewing machines to ensure these skills are increased in these areas. On limited infrastructure and investment, although industrial development zones have been set up in Mpumalanga, has relatively fewer facilities and lacks large-scale investment in textiles compared to areas like KwaZulu-Natal or Gauteng. However, we do have Standerton mills, which are manufacturers and suppliers of quality yarn and woven industrial fabrics. Standerton Mills Proprietary Limited was established in 1947 in the town of Standerton, Mpumalanga province, and its location is ideally suited to cover the major manufacturing centers of South Africa. The factory is housed in a 25,000 square meter building with more than 200 textile machines driven and maintained by more than 500 employees on 3 shifts on 24 hours. The factory's products range is diverse and caters for many local and international companies to use our yarn and fabrics. Some key products include reinforcement fabrics and yarns for the tire and rubber industry, home textile including toweling, industrial yarns and fabrics and twines for the agricultural markets, reinforcement fabrics and yarns for civil engineering and construction application. On opportunities for growth in Mpumalanga, Mpumalanga has a substantial local and regional market for textile products with potential for growth in local production to meet consumer demands. In this regard, Mpumalanga has grown its well-established cotton industry in the areas of Bushbuckridge, Bombela, and Komazi. Currently, the region has about 17,000 hectares planted with cotton, producing an estimated 75,000 bales in the 2023-2024 season. This production level reflects a slight decrease compared to previous years due to factors like adverse weather and limited access to new seed technology. In Mpumalanga, smallholder farmers, particularly in the Komazi region, are working to revitalize cotton farming through cooperatives. The Komazi Cotton Cooperative includes around 782 families cultivating about 3,000 hectares. These farmers face issues such as lack of title deeds for their land, which hampers their ability to secure financing and invest in larger scale operations, which government is currently addressing in order to allow these farmers to prosper. Further to this is the envisaged development of a cotton gin in the Nkomazi SEZ at Komati Port. There's optimism regarding the potential for cotton cultivation to provide sustainable livelihoods to rural communities. Local initiatives aim to improve farming practices and access to resources, with organizations like Cotton South Africa offering mentorship and support and working with government to also assist with inputs and equipment. The global shift towards sustainable and eco-friendly textile provides an opportunity for Mpumalanga to develop niche products. Agricultural commodities in the province, such as cotton, could fit into local textile manufacturing with a focus on eco-friendly production. In this regard, Sepi Ngotwana Mill in Mpumalanga produces specialized cellulose, also known as dissolving pulp, which is sold to converters for the use in a variety of products, namely textiles, clothing, cellophane, wrap, pharmaceuticals, beauty products, and household products, and the mill specialized cellulose expansion bodes well for future growth. The successful upgrade to produce specialized cellulose, also known as dissolving pulp, at Sepingotwana Mill marks an exciting phase of growth and development for the company and the province. As the world population grows, so does the demand for specialized cellulose. The global demand growth for this raw material is approximately 6% a year. In Asia, the company's biggest market, it is projected that the beginning middle class will grow from a current 1.9 billion to about 2.7 billion by 2030, accounting for 43% of global consumption expenditure. On government support, currently the Department of Economic Development and Tourism is in a process of assisting a young entrepreneur in the textile industry, Mr. Freedom Gomane of Gigaguru, designer and dressmaker from Kapogweni Township, with additional resources for his business. The South African government has been encouraging buy local initiatives which could benefit local manufacturers in Mpumalanga if adequately promoted and supported within the province. To bridge the skills gap, educational and training institutions in South Africa, often in collaboration with the government, are working to provide courses on textile and garment manufacturing. These efforts aim to create workforce that can contribute to modernize competitive textile manufacturing, but Mpumalanga may require targeted efforts to establish more training programs and upskilling opportunities within the province. In conclusion, although the textile industry in Mpumalanga faces challenges, there is potential for growth through initiatives focused on local demand, sustainability, and improved coordinated government support. Enhanced investment, infrastructure, and training can boost Mpumalanga textile sector, allowing it to play a more prominent role within South Africa economy, especially in rural and township areas. I thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC, for your contributions. Honourable members, we now move on, and the opportunity passes to Honourable Peter from the United Democratic Movement and the Eastern Cape. Honourable Peter. On my last visit to the Eastern Cape, I suggested that perhaps we should invite some of the cell phone companies down there because there is a lack of coverage in the Eastern Cape. Honourable Peter, are you online? Okay. Thank you very much. Honourable Peter is apparently not available. Let's move on then, please, to Limpopo. The MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development is the Honourable Kakana. So, Honourable Kakana, you have 10 minutes, and we invite you to make your contributions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and my apology for my non-availability on the screen due to the signal problems that I'm having right now. Chairperson of the National Council of Province, Ministers for Small Business Development, Honorable Estienne Ndabeni-Abrahams, and Deputy Ministers present, MEC Treasury and Economic Development, Honorable Maile, MEC Masilela, Economic Development from Mpumalanga, Chief Whip of the NCOP, Honorable K.M. Mwemang, and all members of the NCOP and officials, good afternoon. Honorable Chairperson, I rise to debate on revitalization of the clothing and textile industries to unlock economic potential of the township and rural economies to create jobs and reduce inequality. This sitting, Honorable Chair, comes at a time when the President of the country, President Cyril Ramaphosa, held the bilateral meeting with Limpopo members of the Executive Council, who recognize our province to having abundance of natural resources like minerals and agriculture, and the need to accelerate industrialization and beneficiation for inclusive economic growth and job opportunities, thus capping the scourge of unemployment that is hard hit at women, youth, and persons with disabilities. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism Limpopo thus take note of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition 2030 Master Plan, focusing on the clothing, textiles, footwear and leather manufacturing and their value chain, feeding into South Africa's major retailers, as it holds catalytic potential to stimulate growth behind increased demand from retailers. Honorable Chair, the province's main focus within the manufacturing sector has been on agro-processing, mineral beneficiation, and furniture industry. However, the sector contributes less than 3% in the province, and with a dedicated support and interventions in subsectors, such as the clothing and textile, we could realize the inclusive economic growth, thus creating job opportunities. The department developed the revitalization of Limpopo Township and Rural Economy Strategy, which seeks to transform township and rural space into economic, productive, and habitable centers where people live, work, and play. The strategy is meant, Chairperson, to achieve the investment of productive infrastructure to accelerate entrepreneurship development and to enable township and rural entrepreneurs to access business markets, and also to enhance the social and economic value of townships and rural economy. The CTFL subsector, to some extent, finds expression within the township and rural economy in the province. Majority of the businesses in the province are participating in the clothing and household textile, manufacturing, and value chain. There are some clothing and textile activities taking place in the province within the leader industrial parks. At Seshego Industrial Park, there is one enterprise producing hospital linen for Tigerberg Hospital in Cape Town. The company employs 38 people living with disabilities sourced from the special schools around the province. The second company in Seshego Industrial Park produces pillowcases for Matashi Prison and employed 20 people. In Nkuankua Industrial Park, Chairperson, there is only one black industrialist manufacturing clothing to individuals and employing 4 people. Lastly, in Lwakgomo Industrial Park, there was a company producing uniform for traffic department in Free State. The factory has been dormant for 6 months, but the working equipment is still in the facility, and the progress is on to make sure that we revitalize this factory. LEADET, in partnership with Productivity South Africa, has enrolled one company called Out of Africa Supplies in the current financial year 2024-2025 in the Kaizen program. The company has demonstrated some growth and improvements in its operational systems, finances, and has increased employment to 21 workers. Polokwane municipality has established an incubation center known as Itsuseng Entrepreneurial Center, incubating at least 6 SMMEs in clothing and textile, offering technical, business, and quality management system training in collaboration with SIDA and LEADER. The department has also designated Global Entrepreneurship Week event solely crafted for entrepreneurs trading in clothing and textile, with lots of prizes to be won by various participants. Chairperson, one of the constraints faced by South African textile industry is competition with foreign markets. Many foreign textile producers are able to produce cheaper clothes at a far bigger scale than what local businesses could do. The domestic retail CTFL value chain has been through a turbulent period. Imports have displaced the significant portions of the local supply chain, while South African retail performance has come under intensive pressure as tightening market conditions, international competitors, illegal training, and credit supply restriction have reduced their sale of CTFL products in the domestic market. In conclusion, Chairperson, the work done by the various institutions demonstrates a potential for development and job creation within the CTFL sector in the province. There is a need to ensure increased participation by the SMMEs in the sector and that local businesses benefit through government procurement. And that one is very much important. Regional trade agreements have provided some opportunity for manufacturers and retailers in the sector. However, growth has been constrained by low per capita income in these markets and the extent to which these markets are supplied with pre-owned imports. Nevertheless, regional trade agreements provide clear future opportunities. The province is in the process to develop a provincial CTFL study followed by a master plan in order to seize opportunities in the sector and make meaningful interventions. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kakane, the MEC for Agriculture from Limpopo Province. We move on to the next speaker, and that is Honorable Du Plessis, the DA. Honorable Du Plessis, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chair, MECs, Ministers, Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members. It is always interesting when you get to a debate that is actually pure logic. Arguing the obvious becomes a little bit challenging. So the obvious is, the bottom line is a well-resourced competitiveness and skills upgrading plan is the key factor. Master plans and protections will never cut it. It is very well to talk about creating an enabling environment when you've stood by and watched the disembowelment of a key industry in South Africa. The same applies to the supply chain. Are we, because of incoherent and damaging policies, going to join those who dig things out of the ground or shake them from the trees and add no value? We need clusters, we need internal competitiveness and the development of niche and differentiated competencies. And we need to address our supply chain value, our supply value chain. Now that's very technical for an industry that we all feel quite passionate about. And me personally, growing up, I couldn't find one European pair of trousers that could fit my ATM. Those of you who work on the ground are aware of what an ATM means. It is really difficult to debate this because we have so many developing countries in the world that have gone toe-to-toe with what we class as first world countries. We have countries like Bangladesh, we have countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, all competing with Spain, Netherlands, Germany, and Italy as the top 10 contributing countries in the world. Now, I want us to take a step back, and I really want to drive home the ability of developing countries to step into the world market without excuses, without obfuscation, without victim blaming, or without taking the role of the victim. Bangladesh was a British colony for 200 years. It was only liberated after what is called a genocidal war. This was in 1971. Vietnam, 3 million people died in the American-Vietnam War. 3 million. Only 58,000 of those were American soldiers. The rest were estimated to be at least half civilians. Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge turned against their own people and in 4 years killed 2 million residents of Cambodia in 1975. It was only in 1994 that they were able to get to a market economy, and I want to emphasize a few things here. Cambodia's textile industry is 6.38 billion of the GDP in 2022. Converted to rands, now let me take it slowly. I don't want to fumble as one of our previous presidents did. This is converted to 110 billion, 922,418,452 rand. In the same year, South Africa did 11.5 billion. That is 10% of what Cambodia did in 2024. Cambodia also has a commitment to sustainable and ethical manufacturing, and this means economic growth does not mean the destruction of human rights. The destruction of human rights, when for 30 years an industry that can revitalize this country has been neglected and has been found wanting. Let us put our money where our mouth is. Let us revitalize the textile industry.
Thank you, Honourable Member. And well done on reading out that long number. Honourable Members, now we move on to the next speaker on the list, and that is Honourable Mabilo. Honourable Member, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. There's no doubt in my mind that the ANC-led GNU is totally committed to revitalization of the clothing and textile industries to unlock the economic potential of township and rural economies, to create jobs, to reduce inequality and empower local communities. This is predicated in terms of our master plan that outlines all the programs, all the activities to respond to the challenges. Honorable Deputy Chair, there's no doubt in my mind that the opposition, the DA, the EFF, MK party, they have embarrassed and exposed themselves that they have not read the master plan, which is titled the Retail, Clothing and Textile Footwear and Leather Master Plan. It outlines all the issues that they are raising as if they are not there. Just bother and take the opportunity, just read the headlines of the master plan, not the details. You'll see all the responses. The Honorable Siwisa, both of us come from Kimberley, and you have highlighted the chef industry as non-existent now. But not all is doom and gloom. There's a success story. There's a 32-year-old child who grew up from the dusty township of Kgaleshiwe. His name is Tebe Magugu. He has won the best youth fashion designer in Paris under Louis Vuitton. That's a success story. That's a success story. We need to give credit where it is due, honorable members. We recognize that the industry has had challenges. But let's read what the renowned chief executive officers in this industry say about the industry itself since having signed the Retail, Clothing and Textile Footwear and Leather Master Plan through what they call collaboration and partnership. The company is TFG, and the Chief Executive Officer is Anthony Thurston. He is highlighting the successes in the industry, and there's confidence in the textile and clothing industry through their investment, massive investment in the industry. to create jobs, to empower their own employees. The second company in the same industry is TCI, and the Chief Executive Officer is Herman Pillay. They are also displaying the confidence that they have in the industry through the empowerment of their own employees and also ensuring that they reinvest in the company. So all of you who have been debating on this matter are clutching at straws. There's a difference between 1994 and today. Yes, we admit that after immediately 1994, there was a total decimation of the sector because of cheap imports and goods, etc. But today, the sector has turned the corner through the master plan and through the initiative and collaboration and partnership. Look what Foschini is doing, opening additional shops, empowering, procuring local in terms of the manufacturing. Look what Mr. Price is doing. If there was no confidence and growth, you could not have seen additional shops being created to ensure there's job creation. So the sector itself is in the right direction, and we appreciate the intervention by the government. The government has managed post-COVID to salvage 49 companies that were nearly under through an injection of a total amount of 148 million in grants, not loans. As a result thereof, a total number of 834 jobs were created, saved from total elimination, times 5, because one employee, feeds about 4 or 5 family members. The IDC has approved a total amount of 301 million to 27 companies in order for them to sustain their existence. So the sector has turned the corner. Let's look at the black industrialists, which is my passion. The sector itself is providing the necessary funding for Black-owned, youth-owned, and people with disabilities. The grant has been improved from 50% to 75% in line with the black industrialists. So this government, led by the African National Congress, has turned the fortunes of all.
African National Congress.
The solution is for us to buy local and invest in local, so that we must ensure that we progress accordingly. There's no doubt in my mind that the transformation in the sector itself is finding its expression. Honorable Deputy Chair, right now in the Western Cape, we know from the textile sector, the workers have been empowered to ensure that they participate as owners, as production managers in the value chain of the sector itself. That was under an ANC minister, Minister Patel. So there's a good story to tell in relation to the sector itself. So we remain committed because as government, we have realized that this sector has a huge potential to create thousands of jobs. And it is only through giving credit where it is due that we will be able to move forward in terms of a great opportunity in the sector itself. It provides the necessary opportunity for participation in the manufacturing, which is part of government policy, in terms of artisans and technical roles for the new role players, skilling the workers, and also to giving the entrepreneurial opportunity for all that are there. Yes, we have recognized the challenges, and our government is responding to all those challenges. One, we say we must continue to support local entrepreneurs. 2, that we must promote sustainable practices. 3, that we must be able to be robust in terms of dealing with the overall competition as a whole. So, Honorable Chair, as the ANC-led GNU, we are confident that we are on the right track in terms of ensuring we progress correctly. Let's come now to the jobs. Over the period under review, more than 20,000 jobs have been created. And there's a huge potential to create more than 40,000 jobs. Let's check one of the companies owned by Mr. Robert Ziljang Han. For example, he has reorganized his company, and it is now called the Goldfish JCR Clothing. And through partnership with the employees, they are contributing positively towards empowerment in the true sense of the word. That is a good story to tell. So there is no gloom and doom in the entire textile industry, as espoused by my colleagues. The question of cooperatives in the garment sector is quite successful in terms of the future of the industry itself. And yes, there is a need for us to constantly respond to the supplies, to the tools, to the fabrics, to the machines, and all the trimmings to ensure that we are relevant in terms of the development and the sector as it is. The youth remains a cardinal point because with the new entrants, the youth are purchasing for themselves the new apparels, the new clothes, the new fashion, etc. So there's an opportunity to strengthen the sector that it should not die under an ANC government. I must hasten to say that the South African Council, the South African Textile Workers Union has laid a solid foundation in terms of empowering its membership to actively participate in the sector. Without that strategic intervention, the sector could have been disseminated. So the program is to be appreciated as far as the different interventions are concerned. The master plan remains a lodestar. It remains a program that should be embraced by all of us, especially those in the sector and in this house, to ensure that we continue to contribute positively towards its future. So in conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, the food, wear, leather, textile value chain gives us the necessary confidence as we move forward. And we support all the initiative by this government. We have proven beyond doubt that our plans are in place and they are yielding the result. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Clarity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mabilo. Now we go on to the last speaker, and that is the Honorable Modise. Honorable Modise had 5 minutes, but now we add on the 10 minutes from earlier. So you have 15 minutes.
Deputy Chair, I had personally hoped that this sensitive topic will be debated to the benefit of South Africans, as opposed to scoring cheap political points. I listened with keen interest on all honorable members, and it was extremely unfortunate that debate were along party line. It was very disappointing to hear accusations and allegations about import this, import that, when the discussion or the debate was about localization of the industry. Once again, an opportunity missed in assuring South Africans that we are here for them. Next time, Member Badenhorst, DA needs to look at the debate topic before they come here. MKP, you subjected us to election manifesto. MK here will do this, MK will do that, instead of debating the importance of opening closed firms and localize the clothes and textile industry. EFF, what a disappointment. It was a cumbersome process, having to be subjected to people singing praises of their demigod and not debating for the beneficiation of the people of South Africa. Don't use parliament and don't use people of South Africa to declare your undying love to your so-called CIC or president, to a dying organization. You come here, you stand here, you use people of South Africa, you use parliament time to declare your love to your CIC or your president, to a dying organization. Deputy Chair, the disrespect, and this must be noted with serious concern, that the DA-led Western Cape has no respect to this August House. It is not for the first time that whenever a DA deployee is expected to be in this house, firstly, they send someone who's not responsible for the topic under discussion. Secondly, whoever is delegated to come here, they always address us via virtual, when they're literally 10 minutes away from this house. That must come to an end. DA must respect us. They cannot do this. But I never thought, the Deputy Chair, I never thought that I will one day wake up, sit here and listen to a DA member quoting Commander Chris Hani, as opposed to quoting Magnus Malan. It's amazing. Deputy Chair, Thabo Mokoena, who works for the Sidibeng District Municipality, had this to say in our discussion on the topic under discussion, and I quote, "Since the commencement of the 7th administration, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Honorable Pakstau, has made significant strides in all this important sector of the economy. The Minister has been emphasizing the important role of plans or programs wherein the master plans are aimed to increase investment, boost exports, create decent sustainable jobs, promote localization and enhance transformation. These master plans are pivotal in illustrating the positive impact of the collaboration between government, business, labor on the South African economy at large. The above-mentioned interventions by the government has spin-offs to promote buy local and support local industries, as well as rural economies in one way or the other. Avoid cheap imports and entering the borders of the country, and avoid manufacturing of textile to be left redundant. Place high priority on the clothing and textile industry by sustaining as well as growing employment, production, and enhance competitiveness. Introduce changes that will increase purchases from the domestic suppliers and thus grow the export, and designate the clothing and textile sector for the local procurement through appropriation legislative framework, such as preferential procurement policy framework. As the ANC government, we remain committed to ensure decent, sustainable jobs for our people in the evident above. We will always stand for the economic emancipation of our people, come rain or high water. Lastly, we will continue to accelerate the implementation of the master plan moving forward into the future. Close quote. Now, Deputy Chair, during the Provincial Oversight Week, we met with Mayor Eliza Mputi of Elivera Fashion School, who is a seamstress that specializes in wedding gowns. She employs 3 people, with 1 lady who live with disability. Amongst those that have came through her hands, 6 of them have managed to go and open their own companies. I'm mentioning them so that a member Badenhorst, when he has time, he can drive to the Free State and meet these people. And I'll tell you their company names, so that you don't just make these silly comments here, but you go and meet with the people on the ground. 1 is Moeketsi Morina Mokoena. Her company is Morris Trading and Services. She employs 3 people. 2, Nomakaleshe Maziboko. Her company is Scale Ananda Design. She employs 2 people. 3, Mamkwanazi Selina. Her company is called Maria Clothing. She employs 3 people. 4, Mamuhau Ana Mokoena. Company The Dawn Creation. She employs 1 person. 5, Amir van der Walt. Company Ami Kocho. employs one person. And the last one is Bennett Maziboko. Her company is Bennett Clothing, and he employs one person. In total, these 7 people have managed to employ 14 people in their township. As Member Mabilo has indicated, this 14 you multiply by 5 at the minimum, and you'll get the answer. This is a classical example on how to revitalize clothing and textile industries to unlock the economic potential of the township and rural economies, to create jobs, reduce inequalities, and employ local communities, and not manifesto, election manifesto here. As I close, Chair, I understand it's a mandate, but it must be aligned to the debate. It must be aligned to the debate. In closing, Chair, Mr. Kgosi Sehloho, who originates from Botshabelo in the Mangaung Metro in the Free State Province, narrates the story of how Botshabelo Township was thriving through during the days when the clothing and textile firms were in full swing in his community, and that crime was relatively low. But today, since the closure of those firms, drugs, gender-based violence, and crime is out of control. He asked this parliament that instead of squabbling and being petty, we should ensure that government consider reopening those firms. Honorable members, let's heed the plea of Mr. Kgosi Sehloho and not declare your unlove or your love for the CIC. Let's heed the plea of Mr. Kgosi Sehloho and make a difference in the lives of our people, especially the life of the people of Kwakwa, where they have about 10 or so firms that have been closed. And make a difference in the lives of the people of Botshabelo, where the companies and the firms have been closed.
Could you just hold on for a moment?
Thank you so much. I want to find out from the speaker, why are you so bothered that we love Julius Malema? Why
No.
Why you've mentioned his name 5 times in your debate today.
Can you
Speak about Ramaphosa, your president. Don't be jealous of your peers because they are loved in society of the country.
Please
Speak about yourself and your president.
Please
Speak about the 20% you lost in elections, not our 1%. Speak about your dying organization.
Remember, you're out of order. Continue, Honorable Modis.
No,
you're protected.
It's expected, Chair. We're not surprised. There's no sense of accountability from the Red Berets. When we stood here and we told them that very soon things are going to happen in the EFF, they thought that we were imagining things. Not 2 or 3 weeks later, the biggest pickpocketer left.
Are you going to survive beyond Zuma?
The biggest
Then you
pickpocketer
will
left. And after I have left.
No, is that a clothing? Is that a clothing issue?
Can I speak, Chair?
You're protected, Honorable.
Can I continue?
Continue, please.
Thank you so
Modis.
much, Chair. I know the Zulu will say we Hlabes Kokosini, it's fine. The issue at point is there's no mention of anyone's name here. I've never mentioned anyone's name. The only thing I said is that people are using parliament time, resource to declare their undying love for a certain individual. I never. But what we are saying here, because they've got no sense of responsibility, they don't see anything wrong with using state resource to promote an individual. But the issue here, Chair, the issue here is
exactly what I'm
when we told them, Chair, please wait, let's attend to.
Honorable members, please don't drown the speaker at the podium.
My time is fine, but Chair, when we stood here, we said to this house, within the Red Beret, there is, once you find your voice, you are out. They thought we were imagining things. 3 weeks later, the biggest pickpocketer left. The biggest pickpocketer in the Red Beret left. And therefore, we are saying to them today, just before their conference in December, they must be worried what's going to happen. Something big is going to happen.
I see
and that is worse.
Honorable Modi, sir, could you please hold on for a moment? I see a hand there.
Can I ask on a point of clarity?
On which rule are you standing?
Point of clarity. And I want you as the chair to guide us here. I seek your indulgence. Do the rules not state that you must stick to the topic in which you talk about? This
Yeah.
man is going on about
Sit
Malema.
down. I never said anything.
No, please
President
take your
Zuma
seat, Honorable
has
Gericka.
stolen this country empty, Zuma. And your
Take
Guptas,
your seat, Honorable
you're
Gericka.
depending on money of the Guptas there. They still sponsor you.
Honorable Gericka, take your seat, please. Continue, Honorable Modise.
Okay, Chair.
Honorable Modise, continue.
Chair, let me continue with my issue because clearly, Honorable Craig, I don't know which meeting he's sitting at. I don't know which discussion he's listening to. But clearly, this thing of going out in and out is messing with you. Because clearly you have missed so many things that are happening in the house. And you have no idea where we are. And that's what you are doing.
Because I have other commitments and
The
responsibilities.
reason you are doing what you are
You
doing
don't
because we have
even
no
know.
idea where we are.
You don't even know what
Okay,
you're talking
you're out of
about.
order. Please don't put your mic on. Continue, Honorable Modise.
Chair, we must bring this to order. This thing of member cricket going up and down like Casey and Jojo must come to an end. You must sit down.
Lay your
with
charge.
the engagement.
Chairperson, why don't you call that man to order?
Chair, the point here
Go speak to the chief whip and lay your charge.
Chairperson. Point of order.
What rule are you standing?
she has no rule.
I'm standing on the insult.
No,
Who's
please.
the member of Casey and Jojo?
No,
in this
please,
house?
please take your seat. Please take your seat. If you don't know what rule you're standing on,
Casey and Jojo, can you protect all of us? Because they also allow people to violate the rules.
you are protected. Please
Protect
please
the
take your
members in
seat.
the house. I live on that body in Osunobala.
Continue, Honorable Modise.
Chair, it's fine. Because I was concluding until member Chirwa decided to start the whole commotion. And it's in her nature, by the way, to start commotions. But the conclusion was that Mr. Khosi Setloho asks this house, all of us seated here, to consider the closed firms in Kwakwa, to consider, you see.
Continue, Honorable Modise.
Okay. Okay. Member Suis, Mr. Setloho is asking you that you consider lobbying government to reopen the firms in Botshabelo, his hometown, where the textile and clothing industry was thriving and people were employed. And the good thing about it is that they could walk to and back home. Not this thing of coming in and declaring your love, which is not necessary. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Modise. Honorable members, before we close the session, I'd just like to order honorable members. There was a ruling that was required earlier during the sitting, and the Honorable Badnos objected to the motion made by the Honorable Chirwa Mpongose. He quoted Rule 94, which states that a notice of motion must deal with a subject matter within the competence of the council. After perusal of the motion, the honorable member is proposing that the South African Police Services investigate the matter. The motion was not casting aspersions on anyone, as the motion is not directed at a specific person, but rather on a company. The power to investigate lies with the South African Police Service. Ours is to oversee their performance of functions. That is the outcome of that ruling. Thank you very much, honorable members. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister Abrahams for her presence, the Deputy Minister, permanent delegates, MECs, and all delegates, as well as SALGA representatives for availing themselves for the sitting today. Honorable delegates, that concludes the business of the day. The House is now adjourned. I thank you.
I prayed for someone like
Recording stopped.
Casey and Jojo.
Honorable Modise, no.
Oh, Well done, Team ANC. All my life, I prayed for someone like you.